The following may contain offensive language, adult humor, and/or content that some viewers may find offensive. The views and opinions expressed by any one speaker does not explicitly or necessarily reflect or represent those of Mark Radulich or W2M Network. Please listen with caution, or don't listen at all.
Valley, hooey Hollywood, where any office boy or young mechanic can be a panic with just a good-looking pan. And any barmaid can be a star maid if she dances with or without a plan. Hooray for Hollywood, where you're terrific if you're even good, where anyone at all from Shirley Temple to Amy Semple is equally understood. Go out and try your luck.
Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, you are listening to a Radulich Broadcasting premiere podcast. Damn you, damn you, Hollywood! And here's your host, Robert Winfree. Yay!
No music, no song, no gimmickry. Mark, what happened to you? You got all that out of your you got all that out of your system talking with Ronnie yesterday, didn't you?
No, I'm just all FTR tonight. No flips, no just kicks.
You and Ronnie did something. You had fun with Ronnie, didn't you? Now you come. Now what? You're back here just crawling back to me.
You know what's funny? Because it kind of did feel like cheating on my wife, and it was deeply unfulfilling, much like cheating on one's wife. Poor Ronnie.
I could not speak to the veracity of that statement.
I kid, Ronnie. No, Ronnie and I talked Barbie last night, and then Sisu and the Machine, and we had a grand old time. Ronnie was a trooper. He was Barbie affected him.
If you had to sit through, look, man, Sisu was good. The other two.
Oh, I enjoyed the Machine, but that's not what we're here to talk about tonight. Really? In the year of our Lord 2023 on social media, we're going to do that.
Yeah.
And I mean, not this.
I prefer to have a higher success rate with my attempts.
What about that?
Telling you, higher success rate.
Fair.
All I'm saying. All right. Now that we're thoroughly demonetized, tonight on Damn You Hollywood, we are talking. Mark, we did it. We waded through a summer of flops and crap and mid to a good movie.
Yeah, Barbie.
I'm not going to have this argument with you here, Mark.
Well, I guess we could at least call it the weekend of two films that are finally making up for the lack of box office draw that we have seen in the recent months.
I was just say, if nothing else, at least these movies made money.
Yeah, if absolutely nothing else, there's the financial success. I'm not going to argue about Barbie with you. I'd appreciate if you didn't bring it up.
Yeah, at this point,
I don't know what you're talking about. What movie?
I was just going to say, I think at this point we were starting to wonder if the Super Mario Brothers movie was going to be the only film that was actually profitable this year.
Speaking of Barbie, joining us again from Honeysuckle Rose Creations, now back on camera, and we welcome her. We say, yay, welcome back, Alexis Hejna of the Screaming Boy Podcast.
Well, I've been here the whole time. I just finally got my camera fixed, so glad to be back.
Yay!
We're glad to have you back. So, yeah, Mark, just don't steal my gimmick. I'm the one who denies movies exist.
Okay. You yell at me to move this on.
So we finally got to a good movie. We finally got to a genuinely well-made, well-crafted, top to bottom quality film, and boy, has it been a long time coming.
So we're talking Oppenheimer tonight.
We are.
And in the year of our Lord 2023, Oppenheimer is a biographical thriller written and directed by Christopher Nolan, based on the 2005 biography American Prometheus by Kai Bird and Martin Sherwin. The film chronicles the life of J. Robert Oppenheimer III, Esquire, a theoretical physicist who was pivotal in developing
an actual theoretical physicist, not a purely theoretical physicist, because I could be a theoretical physicist, but I'm not. in practice, and not in reality. In
Good,
theory,
correct the Wikipedia page I'm reading from. First,
I'm messing with you linguistically. That's all I'm doing.
as part
Mark,
of
this
the
is why I
Manhattan
told.
Project.
I was saying, Mark, this is why I told you need to get that clip of Yakko Warner going. Well, isn't that interesting?
And thereby ushering in the atomic age. Cillian Murphy stars as Oppenheimer, with Emily Blunt as Oppenheimer's wife, Katherine Kitty Oppenheimer, Matt Damon as General Leslie Groves, director of the Manhattan Project, and Robert Downey Jr. as Iron Man, senior member of the United States Atomic Energy Commission. The ensemble supporting cast includes Florence Pugh, Josh Hartnett, Casey Affleck, Rami Malek, Gary Oldman, and Kenneth Branagh.
I think it's easier to say the cast is everyone.
The cast is every Oscar winner from the last 5 years.
All right, so for a couple of minutes, let's talk Christopher Nolan. We've done a couple of his movies on here.
I think, hang on, I know we did Tenet.
We did Tenet.
Did we do Interstellar? I don't think we did.
We did not do Interstellar. Sean and I
did you guys do Dunkirk?
Yes.
Did Dunkirk. Sean and I did a on trial for Inception. We've obviously done the entire Dark Knight trilogy. That's a gimme.
You had a long road to ruin for that, yes.
Yes. But I don't.
With truly spectacular artwork by Benjamin and J. Cologne.
That's actually hanging up on my wall. That was the whole cast of characters there and my family as Batman villains. It was fantastic. I was Bane. Little Jonas was Baby Bane. My wife and my daughter were Catwoman and little kitty Catwoman. And Robert was.
I'm Two-Face.
You're Two-Face, and then Sean was the Joker.
Ben, we're looking forward to having you back on the show and we discuss the new Ninja Turtles movie.
But we did not do Interstellar.
Much to my personal chagrin. I understand why we did it, but God, that's a great movie.
Yeah. So I kind of came to Christopher Nolan late. I know everyone loves Inception. It was one of the reasons why I wanted to do an on trial on it, because one, I'd never seen it before, and for the longest time, I think my brother-in-law was like, "Oh my God, you have to see Inception." It's like the best movie ever. And I just avoided it. So okay. His filmography: Following, Memento, Insomnia, Batman Begins, The Prestige, The Dark Knight, Inception, Dark Knight Rises, Interstellar, Dunkirk, Tenet, and now Oppenheimer. I've seen Memento. I don't think I saw Insomnia, and I'm fairly certain I have not seen The Prestige. But I came to Nolan late. I saw Memento around the time that it came out. Probably when it came out of theaters and went on to DVD.
I mean, you were kind of an indie film snob at that point in time,
right?
So.
And that was like an indie film darling.
Yes, it was.
But I don't think I knew Christopher Nolan by name until after Inception, which I didn't give a shit about. So he was kind of the Batman guy. He was the guy that made Batman gritty and realistic and all of that. I remember.
You can say cool. He made Batman cool again.
He did. I know, Batman Begins is very underrated, and in the Dark Knight, I think I have said the Dark Knight is great film. Not so sure it's a great Batman movie, but that is a debate for another day. It is certainly the high water mark if you're just going to throw the term comic book movies out there. Everyone pretty much seems to regard the Dark Knight as one of the best comic book movies of all time.
I think most people would rank Dark Knight right up there with Avengers Infinity War.
Yeah. Made Christopher Reeve Superman's. Those are
Spider-Man 2.
Yeah. And then the Dark Knight Rises is trash, but that's a story for another day.
It's not. Oh, for God's sake, it's not trash.
We are not going to discuss the Dark Knight Rises.
For another day.
Hang on.
It's a whole show in and of itself.
Yes, one I've already done.
No. Let me make my pitch about that real fast. Because real fast.
It's like, I'm sorry. Should I go get a cup of tea while you do this?
No, you're good. Because Samer Cotty was on that Long Road to Ruin, if memory served, with you guys.
Mm-hmm.
And
I think it was just me and Samer.
And he brought up something interesting about the Dark Knight Rises that I think kind of clicked with me, in my head about it.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're a pro wrestling guy, Mark, you will understand this.
Mm-hmm.
The Dark Knight Rises is the best spot fest match you've ever seen.
That's fair.
Every individual sequence is great.
Mm-hmm.
every 5 to 10 minute chunk, exceptional. It does lack a little bit of the cohesive narrative and the cohesive storytelling to tie everything together the way you would like. But
let me ask you a question. When do you think Nolan becomes Nolan? Where he's, and the reason why I'm asking, because we have been documenting the making of this movie since the fallout with Warner Brothers, with what happened with Tenet.
Yeah.
Which we talked about it at the time. You know, a lot of what Warner Brothers did regarding Tenet wasn't great, but some of it you can understand because we were in the middle of lockdowns at the time. You know, that was during the unnamed virus of unknown origin era.
In the lab leak?
Yeah. So, but my point being, like, he leaves Warner Brothers and becomes like a free agent. And like we've talked about a million times now, he becomes big money Chris Nolan. But, and I'm going to go look through this, but my question to you guys is, besides what are some of the Chris Nolan movies that stand out to you, but even more importantly than that, when does he become such the it guy that Universal gave away the store to get him?
I really think it was Insomnia, honestly, or not Insomnia. Memento. I hate to say it, but I always get the titles mixed up for Memento Insomnia when you're talking about a character with short-term insomnia. Mm-hmm. I was actually introduced to Nolan really early on. I had a friend who was a huge film snob, and as soon as Memento hit, he already had a collection of his short films. He showed me following. He had the super deluxe special edition DVD of Memento, the one where you actually have to solve a puzzle to get into the main screen. That really exists, guys. I'm not joking.
I believe it.
So, yeah, I wouldn't say I was a huge fan of his, but again, I saw his earlier work right when Memento dropped, so I could very easily see just how good he was. So when he got put in for Batman Begins, I was like, yeah, I totally get why.
Well, you, Robert. And the reason I'm kind of being quiet, Alexis, not that I wasn't paying attention, but I'm trying to pull up because I want to look at like the budgets versus box office.
Mm-hmm.
There's 2 points. I think if you want to talk when he becomes like, because he's always been a very talented director.
Sure.
To Alexis's point, when he becomes big money, it's basically the 1-2 punch of The Dark Knight, which got critical acclaim as well as box office returns. And when you can get someone who can do both, everyone realizes that's kind of rare. Following that with Inception, high concept, fully original concept, and not just high concept, fully original IP. The market back then was not as saturated with retreads, rehashes, connected universes, and God knows what else that we have now. But it was trending that way. Even then we were talking about it. Like the direction wasn't good.
Mm-hmm.
Him being able to get not only an IP movie that like smashed through the conception of what comic book movies were at the time,
mm-hmm.
following that with wholly original work that is wildly successful, doing it with, he does this on limited budgets, believe it or not. I mean, it's hard to say that, definitively, but in the era of everything costs $200 million, he's half that budget 90% of the time.
All right, so that's a great way to cut in here. Memento, $9 million budget on the high end, makes $40 million, so that's a success.
He's also really good about using practical effects with the cinematography, so he doesn't waste a lot of money with the visual effects department.
Yep.
Insomnia, $46 million versus $113 million box office, so it's a fair to middle success. Batman Begins does 373 off of 150, so not earth-shattering, but still successful.
Well, the triumph of Batman Begins was rehabbing the brand.
No doubt, but strictly budgets versus box office, it's still fair to middling.
Yeah, I would say Batman Begins was a Batman that we had never seen before in theaters. It was completely different than what we had before with Tim Burton, obviously Joel Schumacher, and Adam West. It was a very stylized, much more grounded, gritty version that a lot of us who grew up reading the Batman comics really identified with.
I think the other thing to keep in mind for Batman Begins was the physical media and home media sales that it did very, very well in as well.
Prestige, 40 million, made 109.
Solid.
So far he's hitting the ball with every at bat. Not exactly hitting home runs, not every time, but he's getting on base.
So Prestige made money, but it didn't get very favorable reviews, if I remember.
And so now we get to The Dark Knight, where the bases are loaded, everyone's got on base, and he cracks it out of the park and hits the blimp. Okay? On $185 million, this motherfucker, $1.006 billion.
Yep.
I mean, I don't want to say this is where he becomes big money Nolan, because this could have been an outlier. But certainly, this is what gets you noticed. Then you have Inception in 2010, and this is where he becomes a big money Chris Nolan.
I told you that 1-2 punch, man. The 1-2 punch.
No, I see it now, and I needed to see it with my own elven eyes. But 160 million, $836.8 million for Inception. Like you said, high concept, wildly profitable. I mean, it's got a Marvel budget, but it earns it. Inception, looking at accolades, the list of accolades, it won an Academy Award for Best Cinematography, Best Sound Editing, Best Sound Editing, Best Visual Effects.
Deserved it.
It was the AFI Movie of the Year.
No question.
It won a Best Production Design for BAFTA. It won a BAFTA Best Production Design.
Sure.
BAFTA Best Sound, BAFTA Best Visual Effects. The Crime Writers Association won Film of the Year. The Czech Lion Award, Best Foreign Film, and this goes on. It won Best Scared as Shit Performance for Ellen Page at the MTV Movie Awards. Terrific. So yeah, I would say this is where, if you're going to create a free agent, this is where it happens. But just
and the fact that he follows that up with, again, The Dark Knight Rises, which is whatever your issues with the craft, and I'm not saying they're non-existent, wildly successful financially.
Yeah.
So that film, unfortunately, was always going to get a little bit lower solely on the grounds of how in the hell do you follow up The Dark Knight? I mean, say what you will about Tom Hardy, say what you will about the plot, the craft, about Anne Hathaway's Catwoman, I don't know, but when you are following up what many consider to be one of the greatest comic book films of all time, there's no way you can outperform that.
$300 million budget. This thing makes $1.081 billion.
Yeah.
Interstellar, the cosmic bookshelf. $165 million, 773.8. So we talk about in the years leading to 2019, movies making plus 500 million, getting close to $1 billion, or going over it. And Christopher Nolan's one of those guys consistently. It looks like.
Oh yeah.
Dunkirk, which we did review on Damn You Hollywood, had $150 million budget. And I think this was a lot due to subject matter, but $527 million. But I think you can make an argument that between The Dark Knight Rises and Dunkirk, they're just giving him a blank check and saying, make whatever you want. It'll be fine.
Pretty much.
Then the world ended. But in the middle of the world ending, we had Tenet, and you can't really blame fucking Christopher Nolan on this one.
Look, again, you and I reviewed Tenet, so it's not like it's above criticism technically, but
no.
But if we're just talking, because we're just talking box office returns, like he insisted on a theatrical release, and bless him for it. It was a wonderful thing to watch on the big screen.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
I remember that was the big fight. Warner Brothers was like, no one can go to the movies, and he was like, not my problem.
Nolan films his movies with freaking IMAX cameras. He does not make small release movies, not anymore.
I want to put this comment on screen because it's not a pun. Within this 3-hour movie, it's an epic 2-hour movie. Nolan's ego and typical tropes are seemingly getting in his own way at this point. Yeah, we'll get to that, buddy. We'll get to that. But thank you. You know the deal.
I heard a lot of people had with Tenet, honestly, was, I can't believe I'm saying this, but it was too smart. There was a lot of people who said they wanted to understand Tenet and they wanted to watch Tenet. and then they saw parts of it, and they couldn't comprehend this idea of people going backwards and forwards. And I still remember seeing it on screen, and I actually walked away going, half of that I didn't understand. I don't care. I enjoyed the awesome.
Smart. It's not too smart. It's too much movie for some people.
Yeah.
It's not that smart of a movie. It's just that we're not that smart of an audience collectively, and people had a hard time following it. But
which again is
like smart movies. There's not a lot of like deep philosophical, introspection going on in that movie. It's just there's some artsy stuff done with time, and visuals on screen. But I would not call it like a thinker's movie, which is the implication.
It's people struggled with the gimmick. And I don't mean gimmick as a negative here. But the gimmick of Tenet is playing around with going forwards and backwards in time, basically simultaneously.
Right.
Which is a lot of fun, and I think he does a great job with it.
I think one of our criticisms was
amazing
the amount of
visual effects.
I think one of the problems that we had with the movie was the amount of pseudobabble.
A little bit on occasion, yeah.
But
like the fact that so many people struggled with that is more an indictment on their ability to like. One of my complaints about the people making that complaint was you guys are so used to being spoon-fed at this point that your ability to make reasonable inferences is it's dead. It's just dead.
So with that said, I vaguely now remember the argument between, where Warner Brothers is making the very logical, very sensible argument that the world's in lockdown. We can't release this thing. No, release it now anyway. Florida's not in a lockdown. It'll be fine. And they're like, okay, but we should also do PVOD. No, I shot this on IMAX. I'm going to show it on IMAX screen, and you're going to do it. And they're like, who's going to the movies, first of all? Second of all, who's going to an IMAX showing?
His other thing about that was, I'm not going to screw theater chains like that. Like these are people that are struggling. These are businesses that are struggling.
Right.
I'm not screwing that over. For the sake of your short-sighted, please give me $5 a month.
Nolan's not just a film director. He's someone who knows and appreciates the concept of filmmaking and the industry as a whole.
Can we also
which we'll get to later on at the end of this discussion?
The theaters weren't all even open until that comes out in what, August, September of last year?
You've got the thing in front of you. I don't know off the top of my head.
It was it came out September 3rd, and the major theater markets weren't open until Godzilla vs. Kong, which was in March of 2021. So, I understood where Warner Brothers was coming from. As someone who supports the artist, I totally understood Christopher Nolan and him saying, I don't want to delay this movie. I don't want to hang on to it. There was an argument to be made of, we have to put something in theaters or no one's going to go regardless of whether they're open or not.
Yeah.
So, I understood all of that. But this is what caused the fallout with Warner Brothers to begin with and what made him a free agent. And now he's big money Nolan. And Universal gave away the store, and that brings us to Oppenheimer.
I also just love the story with Robert Pattinson that he got the invite to audition for the role of Batman while he was filming Tenet, but he didn't want Nolan to know that he was going off to audition for another movie while he was making this movie with him. And Nolan ended up finding out. Anyways, you're gonna go try out to be Batman, aren't you? He's like, yes. It's just kind of funny to think about.
School teacher catching the kids sneaking out.
The kids sneaking out to take over the role that he helped,
revitalize. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right, Robert, hit me.
And then there's the Batman, which is one of cinema's great crimes.
Oh my God! Speaking of things,
we went over this repeatedly.
Plot synopsis, monkey.
Okay, so disclaimer about Oppenheimer. Nolan likes to play around with time in his movies.
Big fan of in media res.
Oppenheimer is presented non-chronologically. Our original framing device is basically the Senate confirmation hearing for Robert Downey Jr.'s character of Strauss, who's going to be appointed to the Commerce Secretary position, if memory serves. Again, it's something in the White House cabinet. And his recollections and discussions with some of the people who are working with the president to try and get him approved is kind of the framing device that we have. Mostly for our second framing device, which is the security clearance hearing for Oppenheimer that was levied at him once we get post-war into McCarthyism era.
1954, yeah.
And from thence, we get all the way back in time to everything that is going on. So the movie jumps between those points. I'm kind of going to talk about it in a more linear fashion, but when we talk about specific stuff with the craft, we can talk about that structure and whatnot. So we follow bits of Oppenheimer early in life when he leaves the United States to attend Cambridge, and because there's not really a quantum physics department here in the United States anywhere at that point in time. It's a brand new field of science. So he goes to Cambridge, he goes to other places in Switzerland and Germany and the Netherlands, and he's a brilliant physicist, and he's talking with a bunch of other brilliant scientists of various kinds. There's, Niels Bohr, there's Heisenberg, there's...
The guy that made the meth?
Please don't. I very rarely say this about you, Mark, but you're better than that.
Oh, and mostly you're wrong, but...
Okay. Yeah, we have Oppenheimer nearly poisoning Niels Bohr with a poisoned apple.
Please continue.
And throughout the course of this, he eventually comes back to the United States. He goes to start his own. He wants to, make theoretical quantum physics departments. He meets Josh Hartnett, who's a more practical physicist, and they're just academics at this point in time. But it's an interesting time in science history as well. So they're doing stuff that's never been done, and then somebody splits the atom. And this gets published in the newspaper, and we also get a little bit about how he and some of his students are the first ones to posit the theory of black holes in outer space. And you can see Matthew McConaughey very faintly in the distance passing by. My only joke about that for the whole thing, I promise. And when someone splits the atom, he immediately goes, "You can't do that." And he maths it out like, "No, you can't do it." And then Josh Hartnett comes back in and goes, "Yeah, but we just did. Come look." So he proves that, yes, this is what's going on. And they all look at some of the energy readings and whatnot and go, that's a lot of energy being released for something very small being split. If you took something big, you'd have a big old bomb, wouldn't you? And yes, you would. Around the same time, he's dealing with some of the fallout of his affair with Florence Pugh. He meets his wife. He's interested in sort of the labor movement at the time, which is communism. Marx has been published at this point. And he's not a communist, but, you don't have to be a communist to understand the value of organized labor. And we will talk about that later and whether or not it's always a good thing. And spoiler alert, it's not always a good thing. Unions are corrupt at times and can be every bit as abusive as management.
His wife is a communist to start off.
Card-carrying member.
Yeah, so.
And his brother's a full-blown commie who's talking about immigrating to Russia. He wants it all. He wants all the smoke there. And around the same time, there's the notion that, there's a bunch of very great German physicists out in force, and they know about breaking the atom apart, so they could be making a bomb. And if the Nazis have atomic weaponry, that's a real bad thing, don't you think? And Oppenheimer being Jewish is yes, it's a very bad thing.
We are a little worried about something that you may or may not be aware of called the Holocaust.
Yeah, he's very aware of that. And so he gets together a few people, and Matt Damon shows up and is like, "Okay, we're trying to do this thing, and you're no longer as undesirable as you used to be." Politically. "And I think you're the right guy for the job, so how do you want to do this?" And Oppenheimer goes, "Okay, we have a team here, we have a team here, and we centralize everything out in the deserts of New Mexico because it's a lot of empty space, and we'll be safe, and we'll be secure.
It's empty space that he owns. It's his family's ranch.
And it's a good place." And they go, okay, so they build Los Alamos, the research and bomb-making institution. We follow a bit of how this goes, for better and for worse. Eventually, they build the bomb. Because, of course, they build the bomb. And it works. Then there's the dropping of the bomb and the guilt Oppenheimer feels over that, and we get to see Gary Oldman as Harry Truman, because Gary Oldman's awesome.
I did not realize that was Gary Oldman until I looked at the freaking IMDb cast.
Because Gary Oldman, great chameleon. Love that man's work. Recognized him right away. It's the eyes. I don't know why I always recognize Gary Oldman. Anyway, it deals with that, and then Oppenheimer uses the fame of being the father of the atomic bomb, to advocate for more nuclear deterrence. We don't need proliferation.
I don't like to interrupt you. I mean, when it's just the two of us, me and you do a little bit of back and forth. When it's three or more, I don't want to interrupt you and make jokes and make this take forever. But I have to tell you, I got to jump in here with this one thing. I have done a great thing. I am an important person. I will now share my opinions and advocacy. And everyone's like, we asked you to build a fucking bomb. Sit the fuck down, Oppenheimer. That is the whole third act of this movie, is literally him going, but I did a thing. I did the thing you wanted me to do. I'm a good boy. I am smart. I know things. And they're like, one thing. You did one thing that we asked you to do. Now go away. That is the entire third act of this movie.
Sort of. I'm going to stress sort of. But the long and the short of that is, as the politics of the United States change in the 1950s and communists become the enemy, they always were the enemy, for the record.
And me if my enemy is my friend.
Allegedly.
Mm.
Let me know how that worked out for Sting over 30 years of wrestling.
Woo! Finish up.
But Oppenheimer is essentially set up is the wrong word. He is, in the sense that he was framed. He's not framed, but he is set up to have a security clearance revoked because he pissed off Robert Downey Jr.'s character. And historically speaking, Strauss, giant holder of grudges. Like, his former aides have written books about the vindictiveness and pettiness of that man. So he gets his security clearance revoked, and without security clearance, you can't do anything within the government. So he becomes a more humble school teacher. He loses government postings. But around the time of Strauss's attempted confirmation, this is all starting to come up, and sentiment is turned back in favor of Oppenheimer because of all the public advocacy that he's done and whatnot. And he's an intelligent man, a very important man. And for the first time since the 1920s, the Senate refuses to confirm a cabinet appointee from the president. A bit more common nowadays because, well, American politics being what they are.
Removing the soapbox. We're not going down that road.
All I'm saying is it's more common now. Sum total of it. And Strauss is not vindicated. This basically ends his professional and public life in government. Strauss himself is a very important man for whatever his character flaws might have been. He's an interesting character as well. And we get kind of a flashback to one of the points that we focus on in this movie is a conversation that's had briefly between Oppenheimer and Albert Einstein, who historically did not get along. Their relationship here is actually portrayed as slightly more cordial than it was in real life. Until later on in his life, they reconciled a little bit more. But
you get a lot of comments, especially from Strauss, on, I always wondered why you didn't ask him to work on the Manhattan Project with you. And that is something that a lot of scientists have asked as history has continued.
And what we get there is essentially a climax of the movie where their conversation, Einstein pulls the old, as you are now, I once was, as I am, you shall be. And reminds him that, I remember when you guys held a party for me and you all kind of did it to pat yourselves on the back because you thought I didn't understand what I'd unleashed with the theory of relativity and some of my other work. And I'm warning you now, in the future, this is going to happen to you. They will celebrate you, but they won't celebrate you. They'll be celebrating the leaps they took after you. You are there to make them look good. You're looking up the lights on your way out, kid.
You are the stepping stool.
And Oppenheimer's kind of response to him is, so you remember that time when we were running the math on some of this stuff, and there was one iteration of detonation of the atomic bomb that indicated we would literally burn the atmosphere up. And just
literally destroy the world.
And what we were going to do was going to destroy the world. And now, having seen the proliferation of nuclear weapons, the hydrogen bomb, the marrying of this destructive force with the advances in V2 in rocketry technology, and now everyone's got ICBMs pointed at every corner of the frickin' globe. I think we did destroy the world.
It's funny to look at that the very real anxiety. Let me get through this entire point, you two.
Yeah.
The very real anxiety that we went on for decades up until, like, I'm a child of the 80s, and right up until the Berlin Wall went down, we were doing like nuclear weapons drills where you hid in the hallways and took your head between your legs and all of that, as if that was
Duck in the cover.
Damn it, Robert. Joke again.
But I mean, you know, people, it's hard to think about now. Like if you ask like my kids, you know, are you anxious that we're going to get attacked by Arabs? No, but they didn't live through 9/11. You asked, you know, my kids my age, are you afraid we're going to get nuked? Maybe. Generation before that, most definitely. This was a palpable fear people had. Like the proliferation of ICBMs and mutually assured destruction throughout the Cold War
wasn't there
very
like
real.
Wasn't there like an assumption for a period of like 4 years that we're going to nuke the crap out of each other? It's just a question of when.
Yeah, there was an inevitability about it and sort of an existential dread.
And well,
we were in the last days of humanity.
Not just an existential dread. If you're familiar with the history of that time period, there's at least like 3 or 4 occasions that close.
I was thinking about the Cuban Missile Crisis. Where
hang on. There's that one. There's the standoff between East and West Berlin at one point. Literally tanks nose to nose across the border.
Yeah.
There were a few places when I don't think we all realized. It's only in hindsight that we've realized with documentation being released and whatnot, just how close that whole thing was to being the end of everything.
I remember
there was a movie about the Cuban Missile Crisis, and the tagline literally was, "You have no idea just how close we were."
I remember being in school, and we actually did a lesson. It had to have been like either elementary school, because I was still in Uniondale at the time, so it was probably like 6th grade. But I remember there being like a film that they showed us about weapons of mass destruction, and the I can't remember the phrase that they use, but when like they build 10 missiles, we build 10 missiles, that kind of a thing.
Escalation.
Yeah, thank you. And they were like, for every group of missiles the US builds, the Soviet Union builds that many more, to the point where I think they did a calculation that with the amount of ICBMs, just ICBMs available to any Western country at any given time, they could have nuked this planet like 100 times over. It was some astronomical number. Like we would have reduced the planet to possibly an asteroid field had every single bomb gone off, simultaneously. With that said,
but of course, then Superman all showed us the way to peace.
Anyway, Jesus Christ, Oh,
come on! If somebody didn't bring up that horrible movie, I was going to be shocked.
Neither one of us was going to. However,
no, but it's fair that it did get brought up.
No, it isn't. All right, Alexis, I'm going to go ahead and let you start off your craft review.
Okay, so let's just go. I'm just going to go ahead and say it's like, besides Murphy, who else is getting an Oscar nomination out of this? Do you guys think Downey Jr. is going to walk away with a nomination?
Yeah. RDJ gets at least a nom. He might win. And I wouldn't hate it if he did. He deserves it.
Oh, his role was incredible.
Easily one of the best performances in a best supporting actor role. I say this
without an ounce of irony, and I'm going to scream and throw things if you start arguing with me about it, seeing as you didn't actually see the movie. But it's going to be we're going to have the same Barbenheimer fight during.
Yeah, you are not the only one who said Ryan Gosling deserves some consideration here.
Yeah, it's going to be like Ryan Gosling and Cillian Murphy competing for best actor.
No. Gosling only gets supporting.
So then it's going to be him and Robert Downey Jr. competing for that. And I'm going to tell you there's going to be a civil war in this country, and it's not going to be like abortion that starts it, or gun control, or kids getting shot in school. It's going to be who should win the Oscar, Barbie or Oppenheimer, and we're going to tear this country apart.
I would be perfectly happy with Ryan Gosling showing up to that award ceremony and getting hit by a truck, but
stop pushing violence on people.
You don't get to tell me to stop pushing violence on people anymore.
This is why we have a disclaimer.
It is.
This is why we have a disclaimer. All right, you continue, Alexis.
All right, yes. This is an incredibly powerful film. This is easily, I would say, some of Nolan's best work. It is just so gripping right from the beginning. Murphy, who I could be wrong, I know this is his first leading role in a Nolan film, even though he's been in several Nolan films. Is this his first leading role in general?
Depends on how you hang on. How do you want to define lead? for the sake of argument here.
What other movies would you say you would argue he could be considered in the lead role?
There is a I forget the director. No. Crap. Guy who did 28 Days Later.
Danny Boyle?
Boyle did a sci-fi movie with Murphy and I think Ken Watanabe and Chris Evans called Sunshine. That I think has Cillian Murphy as the lead.
That movie. Okay. Yeah, completely forgot about that. But yeah, a lot of people are calling this Murphy's first true leading role, and he is amazing. This is an actor who, has only really done supporting roles up until this point, and
as a minor disclaimer, in film, yes, he's been a lead in television on occasion. He's the lead in Peaky Blinders, which is quite good.
Okay, but there is a big difference between leading a TV show and leading a movie.
Oh yeah.
And he gives such a commanding presence. I've been a fan of his. Admittedly, I didn't watch 28 Days Later when it came out, but I adored him in Batman Begins. I love what he brought to the Scarecrow. And I think it's kind of funny looking back because he originally auditioned to be Batman. And Nolan said, no, but I like you. And I'm going to find another role for you, basically, and gave him the part of Scarecrow. Well, these two have been.
The story about how he had to get what he had to do to get him hired as Crane, right?
Would you like to see my mask?
No. He actually grabbed some Warner Brothers executives and made them watch the test screening, made him watch the audition that Murphy had for Batman, and said, "He's not Batman, but look at what he can do. I'm gonna hire this guy anyway, and you're gonna go along with it." And they went, "Yeah, he's compelling. Go for it."
He is. He's incredibly compelling. So I've been a fan of his for ages. I wasn't kidding when I said the rest of the cast is just pretty much everyone. I lost track. I'm usually the person who goes, "Oh, that's so and so." Oh, that not out loud, but in my head, I'm going, "Oh, that's so and so." Hell, my jaw kind of dropped when I saw Josh Hartnett. I'm like, Josh Hartnett's in a freaking Nolan film.
Mark, you were around. You remember when they tried to make Josh Hartnett a thing, right?
I do. Yes, I do.
Yeah, Faculty, Halloween H2O.
One of the leads in that terrible Pearl Harbor movie.
I have not seen
Pearl Harbor. I have banished that from my memory.
I know somebody who that's one of their favorite movies.
An idiot.
Be nice to that person.
No.
Sorry, that movie. I'm sorry, that movie is garbage.
They stuck him in a buddy cop movie with Harrison Ford.
Oh God, Hollywood Homicide. That's regarded as one of the worst movies of all time.
Yeah, it's that.
Yeah,
it's not good.
It's not.
They tried real hard to make him a thing, and it never took.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what Nolan did with him in this movie, but suddenly, I'm going to quote the critical drinker here, but watching him in this movie, he's got the same vibes as early Harrison Ford or Richard Gere. That's the vibe and the energy he has about this performance.
He's not a bad actor. He has just gotten so horribly shoehorned in horrible performances that just didn't play to his strengths. I've never watched the movie and thought he's horrible in this movie. It's his fault that this movie sucks. No, he's a good actor.
I'm going to make a comparison.
40 Days and 40 Nights would disagree, but
I'm going to make a comparison. When they were trying to create another Johnny Depp in the lab, they came up with Richard Grieco, and they really tried to make Richard Grieco a thing. That feels like Josh Hartnett. It was there was a couple of actors around the same time. Ethan Hawke, okay, we needed that kind of guy. Josh Hartnett, kind of a guy.
In fairness, Hartnett's the same rough age and has been working about as long as Affleck and Damon too. They were all kind of contemporaries,
right? And so I feel what's the Richard Grieco thing? This guy has the look. We want to make him a thing, and it's yes, but he's got half the talent. It doesn't always work out. Keep going, Alexis.
But yeah, so we got, who else do we have? We have Jason Clarke, Dane DeHaan, Alden, I can never pronounce this guy's last name, Ehrenreich, played young Han Solo in Solo.
Yeah.
That's right.
David Krumholtz, David hard last name, Malchian. He was in the Ant-Man movies. Got Jack Quaid, Josh Peck, Scott Grimes. Just Oh my God, the
Everybody.
list. Yeah, literally everybody is in this movie.
There's
Just
a decent
it's
chance you can.
crazy.
There's a decent chance you see me in the background making a very small cameo at some point. Like everybody.
What are you doing here, Robert Winfree? A very brief
cameo.
All right.
Like I mentioned before, Nolan does not like to use a lot of CGI in his films. And this movie has extremely limited CGI. The shots with the bomb and the explosions and everything, I could be wrong here, but it looks like they were done with macro photography. And they look amazing.
A bit of macro photography and some very talented pyrotechnicians.
Very true.
I'm going to recreate the atom bomb. Okay, so you need the CGI guy. No. I said I'm going to recreate the atom bomb, but since you won't give me an actual atom bomb, we're going to find the next best thing.
I get the feeling Nolan is the kind of director who probably would have actually said, like, so can we set off an atomic bomb?
I think the thought would have been there.
Right, instead of waiting, I'm going to jump in with this because I actually want to talk about this now as kind of its own thing. And feel free to like come back and weigh in on this, Alexis, but I want to get this out there now before we go too far into this. Thinking about the movie Independence Day, the big gimmick, as you said earlier, the thing to go see Independence Day for was to see the monuments get blown up by the alien ships.
Ooh.
Oh, sure.
Yeah, that was why anyone went to go see that movie. So if you watch the first act of Independence Day,
they closed the first act with it, basically.
Yeah, everything is in the service of building up to that moment, and that movie lives and dies by that sequence. If Roland Emmerich doesn't make that sequence sing, the whole movie fails because it's not like it's being held up by the performances of Randy Quaid. So there's a lot of extra love and care making sure that back in the year of our Lord, whatever the hell that was when I was living in New York.
Wasn't that 96?
Probably. I think I was in college at the
5, 6, or it's 5, 6, or 7.
Yeah. That the colors are vibrant. The explosion is loud. You're making use of every bit of technology, both in theater and on screen there is, to make that sequence sing. And I would say universally everyone believes that it does. I don't think anyone was unsatisfied with the blowing up of the monuments in Independence Day. By the same token, Oppenheimer, to a large degree, can be successful with the other pillars of craft. And we'll talk about those things. I have some issues with the dialogue and performances, but more or less, we're all kind of, one, you're going because it's Christopher Nolan. But largely, a lot of people wanted to see the atomic bomb go off. And if that sequence doesn't work, it's one of those where the movie can kind of live through it because they're talented enough people involved here, but it kind of lives or dies by whether or not that sequence works. And I'm going to go ahead and say something maybe controversial. I didn't love it.
You are out of your mind.
I'm entitled to my opinion as well.
You're entitled to nothing.
Okay. Calm down. I appreciated the use of practical effects. I appreciated the visuals. Maybe I had too high of an expectation, maybe because I'm thinking way too much about Independence Day, there was something about the way that it was shot. And while I can appreciate the use of silence initially, and then the bombast moments later, I was underwhelmed with the atomic bomb sequence. And I kind of felt the air leave the balloon after that. There's a lot about this movie that I do like, but at that point, once I'm kind of past I want to see something go boom, and then the thing went boom, and it wasn't as good as I wanted it to be. At that point, I kind of had to focus on something else, or I was going to come away with the impression that the movie sucks, which is not the truth. I'm just let down, which I want to go ahead and say, folks, you can think a movie sucks or is boring. That doesn't make it bad. And therein lies, being able to watch these things and think critically about it. I had a moment where I was like, oh, I don't really like this anymore. That doesn't make it bad. And you have to be aware of your prejudices. Just going to throw that out there.
Let me speak to that for just a moment, if you don't mind.
Go ahead. I got a jumping off point for when you get back, when you're done, Robert.
We've been so inundated.
You have a jumping off point on the same subject, or are you going into another whole thing?
I was actually going to talk about the bomb and its positioning in the film's story arc, because I feel that a lot of studio execs looked at the script, looked at this story arc, and they said, okay, then the bomb goes off.
Can
Then
you hold
what?
on?
Roll credits?
Can you hold on to that for just a little bit? I want you to talk about
That was the plan. That was the
Okay.
plan.
Yeah, go ahead, Robert.
So, we've been so inundated with big explosions.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, for crying out loud, we watched Mission Impossible last week.
Sure, we've seen planets blow up.
It's difficult to, as an audience member, reel back from having seen, again, planets blow up, having seen nuclear weaponry detonated, even though frequently it's wildly exaggerated. Maybe even having seen some of it, because this footage exists and is online and readily available. You can find copies of the test footage from testing more powerful weaponry.
They used that footage for a freaking SpongeBob episode.
They did. We've all seen it. Trying to dial back our expectations of earth-shattering explosions that literally break the earth, in some cases. In that respect, it was going to be a letdown because it's meant to be realistically what that was.
Okay,
And
hang on. I got to touch on that point because I don't know if you're totally understanding me. I did say I could appreciate the practical effect. I think it's a very nice, well done, pretty shot. I'm not arguing that point. I'm arguing I thought there would be more here.
well,
But that's what it looks like. Okay, it sure to be there would feel more impressive. To watch it on a screen, it didn't translate as nearly as impressive as it should have to me. Go ahead.
Again, it's a little bit like, not to use another pro wrestling analogy, but here we go. If you watch enough Young Bucks matches, suddenly guys working headlocks doesn't quite do it for you anymore.
That's fair. I was gonna say you're comparing it to like, the fucking the Petey Williams stupid move that everyone does
Canadian
now.
Destroyer,
yeah. When everyone's doing a Canadian Destroyer as a transition move, it's not quite as impressive.
Yeah, there's that, and I'm sure they could have done that moment in a more grandiose way to like make it a bigger but that's not what it was.
Mm-hmm.
There's a degree of accuracy here that they're trying to adhere to, and
hang on. I want to debate that in particular point. I'm not entirely in love with how that sequence even plays out. Again, compare it to like Independence Day, we're rotating through the things and there's music and everything is building and to where when it finally happens, it's it's almost like a release of tension. I didn't get that release of tension either, Robert. That's one of the things I'm really poking at here.
Okay, may I also posit the following then?
You may posit whatever you like, nicely.
We know it goes off.
No shit.
But
I was so shocked.
But a giant
Really, you weren't expecting him to hit the button and nothing happens and they all walk away going, well, $2 billion down the drain.
But that's kind of the point. Like, the tension there is inherent to the people who don't know that this is going to work.
I don't think that was very well captured then.
But
listen.
Look, man. If I watch
having differences of opinions here, I'm just saying that's how I was feeling.
Look, anytime you do a movie like this, like you lose a degree of tension when you center it around specific events. Pearl Harbor's going to get bombed.
Yeah, but there's ways to do these things where you can retain the tension in the audience, and there's ways where I think you lose them. Maybe you spend too long on a lingering shot. Maybe there isn't musical cues in the right place. Look, Christopher Nolan's a great director, but he is capable of maybe not doing some things right or just not reaching everybody. My experience with this film, and as somebody who is really, who has been thinking about it since last Thursday, and what worked, what didn't work. I'm be curious to see if anyone felt the way that I did, if they think about it long and hard enough, if that they struggled with that sequence because it might not have been pulled off as good as it could have been.
I think the problem people run into with that is it's like watching a real boxing match after you watch Rocky, right?
Oh my God, yeah. Watch Pacquiao Mayweather after you've watched Rocky IV. Oy.
Yeah, like that's kind of that's kind of the fundamental disconnect. I think a lot of, because I don't think you're the only person who's had that problem,
Mm-hmm.
and I think that's the disconnect. Like
Maybe.
we're so far removed from the impact of that moment historically that it's difficult for the audience to really put themselves in the headspace of watching a very small device create that kind of devastation and the implications
It
beyond
might
that.
burn up the atmosphere. Yeah, look, I get all that.
I do love
come
that
on, Mark. You
conversation
and I.
between Oppenheimer and Groves, where they, it's like, so what did you mean? It was like $10, it flames it all, or we all die, or
Atmospheric
whatever.
ignition.
Atmospheric ignition, yeah, and just the fact that Oppenheimer admits it's a little bit of gallows humor.
Mm-hmm.
That I did love that line, and just the reaction with Matt Damon's character is just like near zero. Well, what else do you want? Absolute zero. That was just
zero
really
would
great.
be nice.
It is what I love about that dialogue exchange is that it does point to philosophical differences in professions, kinds of men. You have a military guy who wants, zero chance. He very concrete. I expect these kinds of results, and I will accept nothing else. And then it's somebody.
And here's our date. I love when they're debating, like, so we need a test bomb, right? July. I can give you September, July, August, July.
Right.
Okay. We'll have a smaller test ignition in July, but like there's a lot of physical stuff. We can't actually have a full test by that point. We can give you something by that point.
It's the what is it? The line from, I think it's either Deep Space Nine or Star Trek: The Next Generation. It had to have been Star Trek: The Next Generation, where Scotty is like, "Well, how long does it really take to fix Geordi? Like, it takes 2 days." Like I said it then. He's like, "You never tell the captain the right amount of time. You'll never be known as a miracle worker if you do that."
There's truth to that.
Okay, I wanted to weigh in. I think if we talked about nothing else in this first hour, we had to, for at least our audience sake, talk about that scene. Go ahead, Alexis. Did you want to weigh in on anything else or add to the discussion with the other point you were going to make?
Both, actually. One of the things I do want to weigh in with what you guys were talking about is the score. And I felt that they did I honestly liked it. I felt that the score evoked almost a horror movie aesthetic.
Oh, yeah.
It keeps you very on edge, as it's supposed to. And I really like the way they built that up, continuing on while you see the bomb being assembled. You feel that same uneasiness that these characters are going through. And I thought I don't know who did the score, actually. I don't have the name in front of me, but I thought they did a really good job. But no, the thing I wanted to talk about before,
Ludwig Göransson.
Okay, props to him. The thing I wanted to talk about before is with the story, because again, we're talking so much about the bomb and how it is the focus of the story arc. Oppenheimer. Up
yours and Heimer.
Getting hired on and making the bomb is the focal point of the story. And again, I feel that a lot of studio execs probably were sitting in on the discussion of what Nolan wanted to do with this movie. And yeah, they're like, so the bomb goes off and end credits, right? Because they don't know what else to do.
We got another hour here, people.
Yeah. And it would not have surprised me if some people walked out of the theater after the bomb went off, because they were really like, well, where else is the story going to go? But it really does capture his fear. You feel Oppenheimer's fear with why they need to make the bomb. I love the line just about, it's like, if we don't, the Nazis will.
Right. And
you know that he's telling the truth. But then after he's made this, there is so much of the philosophical debate of, we've opened Pandora's box. Now what?
The scene where we give that speech to like the cheering gymnasium, and
you see, and he doesn't hear them.
It's interspersed with his imagination of what this does to human beings, and that's an incredibly well put together sequence.
Oh, it's brilliant. Yeah. Again, because you cannot talk about nuclear weapons without, discussing, okay, fine, what's next? What comes after? Now that we have the bomb, now that other countries know we have the bomb, now that we have taken this next step in the arms race, what's going to happen next? And I feel that this film captures that fear.
We use small scale atomic bombs to trigger hydrogen bombs. That's how they work. Like I appreciate that they actually went into a little bit of the science there. Like, no, you use a plutonium trigger to kick, like, what kicks off a hydrogen bomb, one of the large nuclear weapons, is a small scale atomic explosion.
I want to throw this out there as another point of discussion. I know you might have more stuff, Alexis, and pepper it in as we discuss this, but I was thinking a lot about Aaron Sorkin as I was watching this movie.
I can see that.
You know what's funny? Everyone's been talking about the Oppenheimer experience. Oh, go to Oppenheimer. You have this one Christopher Nolan gritty atomic bomb movie, and then the pink, wonderful Barbie plastic. They're both fucking talky as shit. These are some talky ass movies. I said to Ronnie last night, I'm like, there's movies where things happen, and there's movies that discuss stuff. And both Barbie and Oppenheimer are both like two movies where they're 5 hours of discussing stuff here. It's it's a celebration of the talkie movie. But enough about Barbie. Let's talk about Oppenheimer. I was thinking about
Barbie's a celebration of nothing but corporate access.
Oh, for God's sake.
Stop.
No, I won't.
Speak silently into your penis, okay? So perfect. Detachable penis. Come on, the King Missile song. Oppenheimer.
Don't know what that is, actually.
I'll play it for you later when I play it for my kids. Aaron Sorkin. He tends to, if you ever like watch Sports Night or The Newsroom, shut up, Robert. Didn't
say anything.
No, in my head you did. There's a almost sing-songy, like modern Shakespearean rhythm to the way Aaron Sorkin writes dialogue, and that's what everyone focuses on, not what is actually being said. The sharpness and wit of which is being exchanged through dialogue between characters. And what is captured really nicely by Christopher Nolan here is all the sing-songy, sharp wit of an Aaron Sorkin without it being all Sorkin-y.
Yeah.
Like, these still sound like people. But these...
hang on. There's three writers whose dialogue style is eminently and self-evidently, like, you watch one of their stuff, you know it's them immediately. There's three of them. There's Tarantino, there's Sorkin, and there's Whedon.
Yeah. And what I liked about Oppenheimer...
None of whom have actively contributed to the writing of dialogue in Hollywood in a positive way.
You wouldn't consider James Gunn among that group?
Nope. So what I like about Oppenheimer...
Gunn has a total style that is very evident. His dialogue alone is not self-evident.
Okay, fair enough.
What I like about the way that dialogue is performed and written in Oppenheimer is that it's not overly reliant on the thing that at least Tarantino and Sorkin tend to overly rely on, not so much Joss Whedon, is that almost like cool factor. Like, everyone's a little too slick to be realistic in a Sorkin or a Tarantino. Everything is...
It's why you can't binge The West Wing. You can't do it.
It's almost like self-aware dialogue. They know they're in a movie. Let me
frame myself for the camera.
Yeah, I think if you ever watch like movies like in the 50s or even like earlier that, from the age of the beginning of the talkies on, there was a very much there was performance speak. And it's evolved over time to where, like, when you're watching a Sorkin jam or a Tarantino jam, these characters seem to know they're in a entertainment vehicle of some kind, and they're speaking as such. They're speaking in an entertaining way.
But when you go to those directors' movies, that's what you want.
No doubt. And I'm not criticizing whether it's good or bad. I'm saying it exists. What Chris Nolan did with Oppenheimer, which I think is probably one of the best aspects of this movie, if you're not caught up in the atomic bomb explosion, is that he managed to do all of the great, smart, witty dialogue writing without having to rely on the cool factor, which was a nice change of pace. Like, I am very...
These are mostly nerds.
What I liked about the movie is that there were some heady ideas being discussed. There was a lot of minutia in the dialogue being discussed. And if you could follow it, you're having a much better theater experience than the person who's fucking completely lost by what's being discussed. But
can confirm, I am aware of people who got lost very easily in this.
Right.
You have to be an active watcher.
This is not a movie you get to zone out on.
It's not Barbie where you just pay $5 to go nap for 2.5 hours.
Do you need a therapy session, please? Like, for the love of Christ.
You are not qualified to be my therapist.
I am not, and I was going to recommend you to BetterHelp than I. But like your dog with a bone, buddy. Dog with a bone.
Tell me about it.
So my issue here is with this. I think if I had to, if like, okay, well, give me another example of somebody very close to Oppenheimer, probably David Simon. David Simon's dialogue, and the people that he works with tends to be very laden, very thick. And if you're not paying attention, you're gonna get lost in the shit these characters say because they are so embedded in the world that is very alien to most people. Whether it be
on the counter, like if you want the opposite end of the spectrum. So Mark and I are going to be reviewing The Idol next week.
Oi!
God.
I am one episode in. It's inspiring darkness, Mark.
Is that why you're being so pain in the ass tonight?
Probably. This is negatively affecting my mental health.
Perfect.
And I can skip giant sections of that show and miss nothing.
I'm almost tempted to cancel because you're only one episode in if you're having this hard of a time. Because now having seen it, I'm not entirely sure there's much to talk about.
Look, I want to have the shortest podcast that the Radulich and Broadcasting Network has ever produced.
We're going for 22 minutes? Perfect.
Look, you're going to do your thing. I'm going to do my thing. I want to be out of there in less than 20. I think we can do it.
All right, challenge accepted.
I thought the shortest one was when we reviewed Hellstrom.
God, I don't know how short it was, but it was one of the worst ones we've ever done.
We both basically went on and said this show sucks. Bye.
Kinda. Only my mouth was sore at the time, so I went, this show sucks. Anyway, so back to Oppenheimer. The only other thing I want to bring up, because I don't know if you guys have anything else to add to dialogue. I mean, like, everyone's a great actor in this. Everyone gives good performance.
Yeah.
I don't know if anyone really stands out. I think everyone hits their pitch. I don't know if anyone necessarily stands out as by far superior than the rest of the cast. Everyone's this is more choral performance than it is American Idol for me.
This is a universally excellently acted film.
Yeah,
and
sure.
In those cases, it's harder you have to have a real, like, we've talked about this before. Like, if you watch a bad movie that has one standout performance, it stands out more because of like what's around it.
Well, didn't we just talk about Robert Downey Jr. and his standout performance in this?
I'm going to throw something
Again,
out there.
There's a few, but like to his general point, like let me phrase it this way. So my go-to for this is Mission Impossible 3, which is not a very good movie. But good Lord, Philip Seymour Hoffman.
Oh, he makes that movie. He's the pillar which the whole thing rests on. I don't entirely believe this needed to be 3 hours either.
Yeah, I'm going to agree with you, but here's my count. To the extent that I have a counter, it's the following. I agree that this felt overlong a little. Like, it's not that this movie lost me at any point, but dude, 3 hours is 3 hours. Like,
yeah,
you feel that even if you're interested.
Yeah.
I want to compare it to, and
hang on.
Well, the reason why I interjected here is if you want an example of a movie that's 3 hours long but uses its runtime well and earns its 3 hours, Return of the King, for a variety of reasons. You need the length of time to do the different battle sequences. You can't rush those or you lose their effectiveness. Not every movie can make that claim go.
The only thing I was going to say about that is I would have to go through this with a real fine-tooth comb to figure out what I would cut, considering that I know what they're doing. Like, this is not a story about the making of the atomic bomb. This is the story of Oppenheimer, and those are not the same thing. Those are events that occur, but they are not the same thing. And if you're telling the story of Oppenheimer, you have to tell the story of his fall from grace after the bomb. And I'm not saying you couldn't. Look, you could make a very compelling movie that is just about the bomb and ends with its detonation, or ends with the surrender of Japan.
Let me play editor here.
But that's not this movie.
I feel like you could lose 30 minutes out of that first act. I feel like you could lose a lot of the Florence Pugh stuff.
That I would agree with that. Like, that, if there's one thing that might be the only thing that I agree could easily be excised is that.
I hate to admit it. Was there really a point to Florence Pugh's character other than more incentive for him in the communist hearings?
It's the Chekhov's gun because they're going to use it against him later. So
hang on. There's two things. They're going to use that, and because this movie does a fair portrayal of showing like the flaws with Oppenheimer as well. Yeah, dude was a womanizer.
Mm-hmm.
If that's going to be part of the story, and it is, you do have to show that.
I hate to say this on this podcast with you as my partner, because you're gonna rip your head off and throw it at me virtually, but I intend not to. I actually just recently rewatched my TikTok talking to Sean about the Texas Chainsaw Massacre, where I brought up the male gaze, and I am definitely one of those people who uses that phrase sparingly because it looks like much like toxic masculinity. It's way overused and misused, but but it does exist, and see any Michael Bay film. There was a little male gaze going on with Florence Pugh, where I'm sitting there with Nolan in the editing bay. I'm going, bro, is this real? Do we really need her fucking naked in the chair doing a monologue that I don't think anyone got? That's a baby I think needed to be killed.
Again, there's a few of those that could have.
And like, what purpose does it? I mean, I'm sure they thought it served some other purpose, but I'm looking at that going, we can get to where we need to go without this. This is utterly unnecessary.
Let me stress the following: the one that I consider genuinely necessary is the bit where he's explaining his infidelity under oath, basically, and we get his wife's visualization.
That's fine. I'm not saying
no. I know. I'm kind of agreeing with you. Like, that's the one that I think serves a very specific purpose.
Yeah, for sure.
I'm a little less convinced by the others, but
okay.
Well, and we've just kind of arrived at the point, though, like, considering what the scope of the story is, what the mission statement is, you would need a better eye than I have, and a better memory. Like, I would have to go through it very specifically and go, okay, here. Like, this isn't your average Michael Bay movie where off the top of my head I can go, this 10 minutes, this 10 minutes, this 10 minutes, this 10 minutes.
Stanley Tucci with the bomb,
among other things.
Yeah, I remember well. Hey, Alexis, wrap up from 20 minutes ago your whole craft review so we can go to Robert.
Again, that was the main point of it. Was I felt that this film really did encapsulate that it is the story of Oppenheimer. It's not just the building of the atomic bomb, as Robert said. And I feel that a lot of people going into this didn't know how they were going to be able to move this movie along past that. Again, they thought bomb drops, bye. And I feel that the movie did a really great job capturing Oppenheimer's fears of, opening the Pandora's box, as it were. I really enjoyed that. I loved that final speech when you find out what he actually said to Einstein at the pond.
Yeah.
And it almost kind of makes me laugh that we kept building up so much that Downey Jr.'s character thinks that he said something to Einstein and Einstein wouldn't even meet his gaze. And he's like, he insulted me. He said something horrible about me.
He poisoned the scientific community against me one by one. I love the aide that just kind of looks at him in disgust and goes, think they might have been talking about something actually important.
Exactly. I love that scene. And then we cut to them talking upon and what they actually said. And you understand why Einstein didn't meet Downey Jr.'s gaze. It wasn't just like, I'm not talking to you. It is, I am completely lost in the thought that was just shoved in my brain.
Much like Oppenheimer, I suddenly have the imagination to see the end.
Yeah, I loved that so much. I love the weight that this movie carries. The fear of the bomb, the fear of the Nazis having the bomb, the fear of what is being opened by this, the fear of what could go wrong. The movie captures all of that, and it's really well done.
All right, Robert, take me home, baby doll.
I don't have a whole lot of complaints. I mean, I've kind of aired some of them with you guys here. Like, I agree that maybe you could have shortened this. Like, I'm not sure it needed the full runtime that it got.
Well, apparently all movies now need to be this long.
Well, until Martin Scorsese decides they've got to be a day and a half long.
Oh, I can't wait for Killers of the 12-Hour Moon.
How do you think we're going to get an average of, 3-hour movies would we do next year's Oscars podcast?
I hope not. I really hope not. The acting is universally good. There's a lot of attention to historical detail. Nolan's other gift with this movie is marrying historical detail by with knowing what's okay to shave and what you need to keep. If you're wondering wait, was the examination of Strauss for that hearing that prickly, for that position that prickly and that adversarial? Yes, it was. Transcripts exist. You can find them. Was Oppenheimer's testimony and his security clearance hearing exactly like that? Yes, it was. Transcripts exist and they're available. You can find them. It's important, if you're going to tell true stories, to know when a true story is so good you don't need to embellish it.
Mm.
I mean, we've seen come on, how many times have we seen that? That's been a complaint we've had at times. Stop. The real story is actually better than what you gave us. Why did you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah, or the stories are moved out of order, or they, combine characters to create one major character who never actually existed and would never have said the things they did.
Yeah.
Was one of my gripes with what was that miniseries they did about hunting the Unabomber a couple of years back? I forget its title.
It's funny. The half. Speaking of miniseries, the half and the bad guys compared this to Chernobyl.
That's fair. If you want something that's slightly more in depth about just the creation of the bomb, there's a 6-part BBC miniseries called Oppenheimer from 20, 30 years ago.
Do you have any other craft elements you want to discuss? If not, we need to move this on.
No, this is just a top to bottom well-made movie. One thing about craft, because I've heard this complaint. There's a bit of a sentiment out there that this is not a very emotionally impactful movie.
Mm-hmm.
Which I can understand. If you look at Nolan's earlier work, what he does is marry generally emotionally resonant circumstances and concepts with the action and the stuff that he's presenting. And when it works very, very well.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that as he's gotten a slightly bit more abstract, there's two major emotionally resonant cores of Tenet, for example.
Mm-hmm.
You have the brotherhood of combat and dealing with an abusive relationship, an abusive husband. And if you've had either of those experiences, then a lot of the stuff that's emotional about that movie hits. If you haven't, it leaves you a little cold. Here, you're kind of I've never built something that utterly reshaped the world, and I probably never will.
So now...
Well, hang on. It's not... So that's a little bit off.
Mm-hmm.
But at the same time, I've seen this, the performances carry the writing. And I've got to just pause, put my hand up in the air and go, this is a collaborative effort, people. It's like saying, wait a minute, you're not the best at conveying emotion through action. Why would you hire John Williams? Well, maybe because his music will do that. If your writing's not always the most emotionally resonant or evocative, how do we fix that? You hire good actors.
Yeah.
Oh, you've got good actors, but your story kind of sucks. Hire a good writer. It's not cheating. It's the process.
I'm with you, actually, because there is something extra about Cillian Murphy's performance in this. I remember thinking this as we cut between his security hearing and the earlier scenes at him in Cambridge. Murphy is able to portray when he's sitting down at the security meetings, he's got a look of just, I have been through hell and I don't want to talk about it anymore. There's a massive...
I know the feeling.
Yeah, it's called Working With Us. But he's got this massive weight behind his eyes. And I would love to know what the chronological shooting schedule was for this. Because I want to know, it's when Murphy went into work for the day, was it okay, am I still the younger scientist who has hope? Or am I I am Death Destroyer of Worlds? Because he plays both parts very well.
Working on Oppenheimer. Some days I'd walk on set and Christopher Nolan would punch me right in the solar plexus. And he's like, all right, and go.
Some days I walk on set and I'm bright-eyed, bushy-tailed, and excited about the possibility and the future of humanity. Other days I have to walk on and go, I ended everything.
But you guys get what I'm saying.
Yeah,
These
I
are two very different roles, and
so,
you see them both in his performance.
Look, I know.
Someday he's walking on set and he's like, all right, Cillian, I love you just the way you are. Everybody, take your places, marks, and go. Action. And you shoot him and it looks great. And then other days he's like, right before they yell action, they hit him in the balls with a football. Like, all right, there's your motivation. You heard a lot of pain. Go. I want to say before we move on to the box office, to the money, top 5 movies of this year so far. I think we can all agree. And I'm going to include you, even if you don't agree, Alexis. Evil Dead Rise, John Wick in this. I mean, I universally, and then each one of us could have like another 2 that the rest of us don't get to agree on.
I throw Super Mario Brothers into that.
You would, but by the same token, here's what I would: no hard feelings and Barbie. Robert.
I don't know. I'd have to think of it. Look, man, I was quasi glib when I said my mental health's not in the best spot right now, but that's only quasi glib. Like I've had a weird month, and I don't know why. Like,
so you're at least okay with saying John Wick, this, and Evil Dead Rise, 3 best movies of the year so far, universally.
I haven't seen John Wick yet because I wanted to rewatch 2 and 3 before going in to see this for a refresher. On the grounds of my love of dogs, I'm not sitting through 1 again.
When these 2 assholes, these 2, that one here,
those 2 assholes.
How many assholes we got on this ship?
Yo.
I was waiting for my kids to all run out. Yo, Dad. Very popular phrase in this house.
They've done that.
When we're both telling you John Wick,
I'm surrounded by assholes.
When we're both telling you John Wick is good, just take it on red. I mean, get to it when you get
to
it.
I know I'm sure it's good.
Yeah.
But I can't officially call it one of the best movies of the year until I've seen it. Again, I am throwing Super Mario Brothers in there, and I will stand behind that. I don't care what you 2 say.
You're allowed to put it up there.
When I have to pick another 5 movies, it'll probably be one of them, but it ain't in my top 5.
I'm giving a tentative placement to the Guardians of the Galaxy 3.
Ugh. You've come so far, Alexis.
Hang on.
We've worked with you for so long, and you do so well.
I can agree with
and then you say 2 + 2 is 5. Ugh.
I can agree with the tentative placement.
I'm saying tentative because there's a lot of movies that I have that haven't come out yet, and there's a handful I haven't seen. I mean, so it is probably going basically saying if I see more that I like, I am more than willing to axe it. But on the grounds that I have not seen more that are better, because a lot of the movies this year have sucked.
That, to be fair, Mark, that is the point. Like movies from this year.
Yeah.
I mean, watch something besides a blockbuster, you nerds.
I don't know.
Dungeons and Dragons is probably going to be on my top 10.
Ow! Oh, it hurts! Ow!
I thought we all liked that movie.
Why do you hurt me?
I mean, it's okay to say it's fine, which is kind of where I landed on it. I might put Extraction 2 in my top 5 personally.
That was up there. Plane.
No. I mean, I didn't dislike Plane, but it's not one of the 5 best made movies.
No, not 5. God, no. I said if I had to,
No, I still haven't got to 5 yet. Hang on.
No.
Look, I'm mentioning Dungeons and Dragons and Guardians because majority of the movies this year have sucked. And as I told you guys when we reviewed them, those are movies that I was able to sit through and have a good time. I'm not going to rate them up there as in cinematic art, but considering how much shit I've had to shovel for you, Mr. Radulich, I am allowed to say that some of the best movies of the year are ones that I sat down and I have enjoyed.
Yes, and you can see Russia from your house. We get it.
No, come on, Mark. That's half the reason you're saying Barbie's good.
Oh, fuck you.
Hey, I didn't say the whole reason. It's half.
You're entitled to have that opinion, Alexis. It's one of those ones where and I named my 5, and it's not like 2 of those. It's not like no hard feelings was like this great cinematic achievement. I just think it was very well done. And to your point, to be fair to Flair, it's better than most of the stuff we've reviewed this year, which is a low fucking bar.
I'm going to make a. I'm to my eternal detriment. I am looking at like the best reviewed movies via Rotten Tomatoes for 2023.
Yeah.
Go for it.
I Wish to Die. So hang on. So number one right now.
I think we found the TikTok video.
Yeah, we might have.
Number one. Are you there, God? It's me, Margaret.
Hey, look, my
Didn't see it, but I heard good things.
Give me a second, because my wife took Lily to go see Are You There, God? It's Me, Margaret. She raved about it, if I remember correctly. Yeah, so to the women of which were the audience for this thing, they thought it was fantastic.
Number two is a piece of Korean cinema, I believe, called Past Lives.
Mm-hmm.
Number three is Blackberry.
Blackberry was really good. I saw that in the theater.
Number four is Rye Lane. Number five is Joyland. Number 6, Full Time. Number 7, Aloners. Number 8, Return to Seoul. Number 9.
I haven't heard of half of these.
I don't know what these are.
We have to get all the way to 10 before we talk about something that we discussed here, and that's Spider-Man.
Ugh. All right, this is depressing. Let's move on.
Then there's Suzumi, 1001, RMN, Falcon Lake, Attachment.
Can you edit that to just American releases? Because half of those I've literally never even heard of.
In band names and fucking like recipes and shit. We don't know.
Well, so okay. Tell you what, I'll go down through this list, and when I find stuff that I know we have a touchstone for, I'll call it out. Okay.
Fair enough.
So
I'm sorry, you were rating off a handful. I'm sorry, those independent films, foreign films, or
student films, philosophy.
Yeah, exactly. It's hard to talk about the best films when you've never even heard of them.
We're gonna do this 2 weeks. You keep doing what you're doing, but I actually want to look at what we reviewed this year.
That's fair.
Go for it.
So we have to by the time we get to number 19, we have John Wick Chapter 4.
Okay, so Indiana Jones. Just kidding.
For the record, I have retracted my positive opinion of Indiana Jones.
We're number one.
Hang on.
Okay. Can I say something?
Please
about
tell
that?
me why. I have to know how you arrived at that decision, please.
Okay, I went to see that movie with my husband, and he loved it. He really enjoyed it, and it's very hard to get Andre to admit when a movie is good. He's very like, it was okay. Yeah, it was all right. So when he says something is good,
because you loved your husband is the sweetest thing I've ever heard you say.
I think I got a bit of a contact enjoyment because I liked seeing him like it so much that I kept thinking about the parts of the movie that I really did enjoy. I'll stand by that action sequence with the
Talks.
Yeah, I thought that was really good. And I just kind of gravitated towards I want to enjoy the good parts of it, but now that I have gotten away from it, I've been able to sit down. It's like, yeah, there were a few good parts of it. They don't outweigh the bad.
Oh, so hang on. You've got the thing that my brother has with X-Men Origins Wolverine.
No, I think that movie is shit.
No. Whenever he thinks about it, he remembers the 5 or 6 awesome segments. And then if he goes to rewatch it, he goes, oh, right. There's all this stuff in between.
All right.
So hang on. We have Sisu at 21, How to Blow Up a Pipeline at 22.
Hang on. Sisu, Ronnie and I reviewed last night, and it was excellent.
Didn't we review How to Blow Up a Pipeline?
We did not. I just talked about it.
A lot.
Yeah.
Megan at number 26, which still would A, shouldn't count. It's a 2022 movie. B, still boggles my mind. I do not get that movie.
Damn
Didn't they get a director? Didn't they release a director's cut of that?
I don't know. Probably.
All right.
Air comes in at 29, which I only mentioned because we both seen.
Air was good.
Joyride at 30.
What was Joyride?
I don't know, but people talked about it.
Is that Asian American?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the one. We got to go further down.
By the way, I was looking through the Damn You Hollywoods this past year, and Alexis is not wrong. It's John Wick and Super Mario Brothers and Evil Dead Rise.
Yeah. Dungeons and Dragons comes in at 41. I don't know how old this list is. I don't know when it was last updated. So for whatever value that gives you, for some reason they have Creed 3 at 46, which is entirely too high for that piece of crap.
Barbie's not going to make it on there solely on the grounds of it is getting review bombed like crazy.
Well, hang on. There's huge backlash against the movie
as there should be.
Oh my God, you racist! All right,
Hold on. Who am I racist against? You tell me.
You're racist against women.
That's not Evil Dead Rise comes in at number 62. Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 at 63. Tetris 64.
Where did Boston Strangler come in?
It didn't. Go bite me.
I wanted to see
I will agree to that
Tetris.
sort of thing.
I want to see Tetris. Okay, I do want to see that.
We thought it was
It's
fine.
fine. Extraction 2 at 70. Plane at 72. Scream 6 at 74.
Get to the end.
Elemental at 77.
Elementals deserve so much better than that.
Quietly, it's quietly actually making money now.
I'm glad.
So, yeah, the long and the short of that being, if you compare the stuff that's been positively reviewed in general to the extent that you want to count the aggregation on Rotten Tomatoes versus the stuff we've seen for Damn You Hollywood, there's a lot more damn you going on than anything else these days for us.
All right, with that said, here comes the money.
We're in the money. We're in the money.
And there is money to talk about.
For once.
Barbie is doing just fine, ladies and gentlemen. Which I do have to talk about.
66% drop.
You're a 66% drop. Can I please do my thing now? On a budget of $100 million, this thing made $209.2 million. And because I didn't get to do it yesterday, we have to. Robert's going to have to take a Xanax and fucking control himself so that we can actually do a proper show. Barbie on a budget of $145 million, the second half of the Oppenheimer.
Hang on. Here's my only question about this.
Yes, sir.
You've seen both.
I have.
How did Barbie cost more to make than Oppenheimer?
Set design.
Good point.
Yeah, the
Set design and costumes.
Yeah, it was all like practical stuff,
Okay.
and
No, that's fair.
Yeah.
I genuinely didn't know how it might have
it's
happened.
the modern. It's funny because somebody actually pointed this out that there's a lot of comparisons to it. But Barbie is like the modern Wizard of Oz. They really built a practical new universe for Barbie.
I am genuinely hoping that they save part of that Barbie set for like the studio tours.
Yeah,
for future.
I would
hope
agree.
someone
All right,
burned it to the ground.
Please do fentanyl. On a budget of 100.
Don't
that's,
tempt me.
That's evil.
I need him to calm down at this point. Next up is horse tranquilizers.
Dude, if I do fentanyl, that's it. You ain't getting.
I was gonna say
you ain't
fentanyl's not
getting
a
a 2
caller.
week-
Fentanyl is gonna kill him.
You ain't getting your month's notice on that one, buddy.
I mean, you do it in like prescribed doses. Just calm down, Jesus. Someone tell your brother to give you pot. All right, and that Barbie.
Why?
On 145, because you won't shut up about it. $145 million. This thing has made $382.4 million. I got to do like both of these here. So this is going to be kind of a weird Damn You Hollywood money experience, but go with it. So the box office for Oppenheimer.
Okay, hang on. Before you get to the specifics here, I need you to eat crow.
Yes.
You were the guy last week saying, I think Mission Impossible holds number 2.
Yeah, no, I'll look. In my defense, you have gotten just as many of these wrong as I have.
I have been more than happy to eat crow when required.
Yeah,
I have.
Okay, no, I'm just saying.
We all agree. I don't think any of us were predicting Sound of Freedom to take.
No, I didn't even know what the fuck
that.
Look, I didn't know what the fuck it was until the conservatives were like ready to burn down Barbie and Indiana Jones and all these other fucking movies, and then Sound of Freedom ended up making as much money as it did.
Dude, so Sound of Freedom is gonna make more domestically than Mission Impossible.
Well, of course it is. There's only QAnon people go see crap like that.
Oh, for God's sake.
When you say stuff like that to the two of us, you do realize the reaction you're going to get, right? Or do you not? And only after you've blown through the intersection and get hit by both me and Robert do you realize I done fucked up.
Look, man, I'm happy to call movies QAnon when they're QAnon. Sound of Freedom is not QAnon. Like, the fact that we're at this point where...
Alexis, I would take a bullet for you, but sometimes you got to stop shooting yourself, okay? Literally, it's just like pull grenade, pin, throw pin. Oh fuck! every time, babe, every time.
Now, see, I go back to that one Bugs Bunny cartoon where he gives the wolf the grenade, and the wolf decides to read all of the instructions before he throws the grenade.
That's a good one.
Sometimes, Alexis, that is definitely you. As of July,
like pull the pin over, and
as of
light,
July 24th.
light fuse.
2023, speaking of lighting fuses, Oppenheimer has grossed $95.1 million in the US and Canada and $114.1 million in other territory for a worldwide total of $209.2 million. Variety wrote that the film needed to
help me. If anyone makes the Japan joke, I'm going to strangle you.
Variety. Oh, that's what's going to send you to violence. Variety wrote that the film needed to gross $400 million worldwide to be profitable. I'm sure it will do more than that.
Yeah, Variety, known for its vaunted accuracy when talking about, but when this collection of brain dead jackals decides, no, don't you understand? Indiana Jones made $200 million worldwide. It's broken even, and I just tell you all to pull your bottom lip over your head and swallow.
Speaking of pulling your bottom lip
AI
over your
should
head,
be taking your jobs.
More on that in a minute. In the U.S. and Canada, Oppenheimer was released alongside the Barbie and was originally projected to gross 45 to 50 million from 3,600 theaters in its opening weekend. The week of their releases, AMC Theaters announced that 40,000 AMC Stubs members had already pre-booked tickets to both films on the same day. To be clear, I bought my 2 tickets for Oppenheimer the day they went on sale. We went to a showing of Barbie the Monday after it came out, and I bought them Sunday, so that was no biggie. But yeah, I've had my Oppenheimer tickets for like weeks before the movie came out.
It's funny. I asked my folks if they wanted to go see Haunted Mansion with me this weekend because we're reviewing it next weekend. And we went to go see Oppenheimer together. They loved it. And now they're like, well, we kind of want to go see Barbie this coming weekend. And I'm like, yeah, of course you do. And it's like, no, I want to see Barbie too, but I need to see Haunted Mansion for work.
At the risk of triggering pissy pants, Barbie is happening right now. It is a cultural conversation. My TikTok today, not that it's like the litmus test or anything, but it is a go-to point.
It's a
was
test.
Fucking filled with people doing Barbie content.
My mother works as a receptionist at a salon. She took that job after she retired because neither of my parents can just do nothing when they're retired.
I get that.
And everyone who is either working at the salon, all the customers who've been coming into the salon, all they're talking about is Barbie. Yeah. That's why my mother wants to go see it, because she wants to know what everyone's talking about.
I don't give a shit at this point about what anyone's personal opinion of Barbie is. You cannot deny this thing right now is the center of a cultural conversation. It is all over social media. Like I said, it's all over TikTok.
Okay, hang on.
This is everywhere.
I'm not disagreeing with you.
Okay.
At all. I am saying, God help us. When Barbie...
Look, this is the thing. I hang on. I gotta get this point out before one of you runs me over with something completely different. I talk a lot about how it's interesting that our most interesting thematic cultural topics get talked about in only the horror genre. Nice change of pace that they chose the toy movie as a place to discuss gender norms, conformity, patriarchy, feminism, the daily struggles of being a woman in modern society. Like,
bent.
Oh, fuck off. There's not a lot of places where this is being discussed in a major motion picture for general audiences. They went with the fucking toy movie. That's big. You cannot, considering most like companies with high IP where they're trying to sell you something are not going to take the chance to do something that brave. I did it last night. I'm going to say it again. Mattel and Warner Brothers, bravo, slow clap. Nice one, because I didn't see that coming. No one did. That's why it's part of the cultural conversation right now.
Yeah, sure. It's not that we're just bereft of other things to talk about.
We aren't. That's ridiculous.
We are. Hold on. You know we are. Don't play that.
Moving on.
Tallest midget. If we're talking about things that
Is this the hill you really want to die on, Robert?
Here's the hill I'll die on. Here's the hill I'll die on.
You're really dying on there's nothing else to talk about?
You want to pretend that there's anything out there in the pop culture space? Anything. So Barbie qualifies by being the tallest midget.
All right.
What else? What? You want to talk? Well, do you think the Haunted Mansion's going to say anything?
Right now the topic is the strike.
Well, I was also going to say you also have the stuff with the Twitter, X, Elon Musk, Threads, whatever the fuck.
Okay.
Screw Elon Musk.
Hang on. Not touching that.
The point is, it's something. Your whole
I'm not
argument.
saying.
Hang on. Your whole argument is nobody else is talking about anything worthwhile except that they are, and I don't understand why you keep arguing this point.
My argument is there's nothing pop culture talking.
I mean, okay, but
okay, look what Elon Musk does with Twitter is. Hang on.
Your implication though is that if
the
there were anything else, if there were anything else, nobody would talk about Barbie, which is bullshit. Considering how
Mission Impossible hadn't sucked.
No, Robert, you're missing an entire point with this.
I'm making the point that our entertainment cultural discussion is so bereft of anything useful, worthwhile, or even approximating interesting that your feminist agenda bullshit about Barbie qualifies.
Okay. Last point on this, and then we got to move this on. As fun as this is to yell at each other, because we haven't done that in a while. This movie resonates with a lot of people about a lot of different subjects. Even if there were, even if we were to agree that there's 20 other things happening right now in the culture to talk about, this would still be number one.
Wait till Robert finds out that they want Greta Gerwig to direct the next Wonder Woman movie.
I don't care.
Yes. My point is,
that means, for the record, that means nothing to me.
They hit upon with Barbie, whether you choose to acknowledge it or not.
I'm not denying
that is something universally resonant.
Hold on, bullshit on bullshit.
How?
On Universal.
How is it not universally resonant? You're talking about there are two fucking. Well, I don't want to say there are two genders. I got yelled at, but their genders is like a universal thing. People are going to respond to that.
Yeah, there's two genders.
I don't want to get into it. All right,
I'm sorry. Should I just let you two do this thing while
I am trying to move this on? After grossing $33 million on its first day, back to Oppenheimer. Weekend estimates were raised to $77 million. It went on to debut $82.4 million, finishing second behind Barbie and making one of the best opening weekends for an R-rated drama. 64%, which was what the title was held by Deadpool, wasn't it?
No, Deadpool's not a drama.
No, okay, R-rated drama.
I was going to say, are we talking R-rated drama or just R-rated film in general?
I was thinking R-rated film. That's why I said that, but fine.
I think if you want to go to R-rated drama, it's probably Joker. Would be the one that was holding it.
Good
there
point.
You go. 64% of the audience was male, 33% being between 18 and 34. Barbenheimer phenomenon was credited as boosting interest in the film with a total of 79% of tickets sold over the weekend, being two films, a combined total of 18.5 million. The film's opening weekend was Nolan's best for an original film, being the highest of his filmography outside the latter two films of the Dark Knight trilogy. Owen is your new Quentin Tarantino.
It's like, look at that, Hollywood. Marketing actually works. Maybe you should try that. Speaking
of marketing, Barbie. As of July 24th, 2023, grossed $188.1 million in the U.S. and Canada, and $194.3 million in other territories for a worldwide total of $382.4 million. It was described as a record-breaking box office success during its opening weekend and set the record for any film that was not a sequel, remake, or a superhero property. Boom.
And most money raked in for a film directed by a woman.
In the U.S. and Canada, Barbie was released alongside Oppenheimer.
Qualifiers on that? Jeez.
And was originally...
I'm sorry. I felt the need to bring that up.
He's also talking about the wiki, though. Was originally projected to gross $90 to $125 million from over 4,000 theaters in its opening weekend, with Warner Brothers predicting a $75 million debut. A lot of this is a repeat for what we just read. It earned $70.5 million on its opening day, which included $22.3 million from Wednesday and Thursday night previews, both of which were the best of 2023. Barbie's opening weekend gross was $162 million, marked the largest opening since Black Panther: Wakanda Forever. It was also the biggest opening ever for a film helmed by a female director, as you just said, passing Suicide Squad of 2016 to have Robbie's highest opening weekend. It scored the third highest July opening weekend at the time, behind The Lion King 2019 and Deathly Hallows Part 2 in 2011. This also marked the third highest opening weekend for a Warner Brothers film after the latter film, Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice. Barbie also scored the biggest opening for a movie based on a toy. On its fourth day of release,
that's the smallest hurdle to ever clear.
I'm not going to fight you on that one. It surpassed The Dark Knight to have the highest Monday gross for any Warner Brothers film, collecting a total of $26.1 million. The Barbenheimer phenomenon was widely credited with boosting interest in the film, etc.
Yeah, you already said that.
Yeah. Accolades.
Leave that. There's none.
No, I wanted to see if there were any other
accolades are awards, not records.
Yeah, okay, that's fine. All right, so let's get into the weekend that was. Barbie was the number 1 movie of the weekend. Oppenheimer was the number 2 movie of the weekend.
Oh boy.
Sound of Freedom dropped from 2 to 3, and Mission Impossible. Here we go. One to 4. Yikes.
Yeah, I asked you guys in the chat. I said I didn't catch your review, but we all knew it was going to drop, obviously. But I don't think anyone predicted it was going to drop that bad.
Mark said it was probably going to hold on to 2. I did not. I thought it would come in at 3rd.
I did not think okay, so I wasn't taking into account people's silly nature with like, oh, Barbie and Oppenheimer on the same day. Must see both. Okay.
Yeah.
Sometimes
who would have
There
thought?
was a lot of people doing double features that weekend.
There
so
were.
I never
and
thought it was going to be a cultural. I never thought that element of it would be a cultural phenomena, and it was. That one got
you
passed.
underestimated the gullibility of people for viral sensations.
No, for sure. I'll take that one.
Well, hang on. Even like a 65% drop for that movie after it opened a little soft. Dude, we said it, man. There's nothing here. Like, we didn't predict this, but when we reviewed that movie, like, why would you ever see that a second time?
Yeah.
Ever.
All right. Indiana Jones dropped from 4 to 5. Insidious. Elemental 5 to 7. Spider-Man 6 to 8. Transformers 7 to 9. No Hard Feelings 8 to 10. Little Mermaid dropped from 10 to 11. Flash 13 to 14. Thank you. Terrifier debuted at 20. Go West 23. And that was the weekend. Worldwide on the dime. Super Mario, currently the only movie to have cracked the billion.
You know what? Hang on. I'm ready to say it. Are you ready to say it, Mark?
I'm not ready to say anything. You've been mean this whole podcast.
Sorry. But hang on. Are you ready to say that Super Mario Brothers is the only billion-dollar movie all year?
Not yet. I want to see how Barbie does. Not to keep triggering you and Ronnie, but
no.
Yeah, we all know Barbie's going to stay number 1 this coming week.
I mean, a 300. I mean, look, you can't knock the hustle, and even if you try, I'll start screaming at you again. It's over a $300 million weekend debut. I don't know if any other movie did that this year, maybe with the possible exception of Super Mario. I'd have to go back and look. And if it tracked that way, especially, let me say this. Right now, Barbie's one of the only movies going that has rewatchability for people. That's no bullshit.
It's not the word of it. Also has the word of mouth. Like I said, with my parents, anyone who didn't see Barbie, everyone else is talking about Barbie. They're like, well, everyone's talking about it. We should go see it. Barbie will remain number 1 this coming weekend. As much as I'm looking forward to seeing Haunted Mansion, and I really am, it is not going to make number 1.
No.
I would even hold out that it's probably not going to make number 2. I'm willing to bet that Barbie and Oppenheimer will stay at number 1 and number 2 this weekend.
I was going to say, right now, if I had to bet on another movie cracking $1 billion, it's Barbie. But that's about the only one that I can think of.
Here's my problem with that.
Okay.
I can understand you wanting to wait and see.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's going to drop pretty hard.
You think you think over 60?
Yes.
All right. This coming weekend, or just okay.
Let's see.
Hang on. I think it's going to over 60. Around. Let me dovetail around 60 plus or minus 3. Can we go with that? That fair?
Let's table this because it's not something I don't want to argue about a prediction at this time. I'm making the argument, as is Alexis, that right now it's happening, and that people who didn't see it opening weekend because fuck the toy movie are like, wait, it's a cultural phenomena. Maybe I should go see it.
Either that, or they went to see Oppenheimer.
If your mom is on TikTok, like I said, if your mom is on TikTok and her feed was like my feed today, she's like, "What's this Barbie thing all about?" She's going to movies this weekend.
So look, I'm not saying Barbie's not going to make money.
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying 2 things that I think are going to hurt it.
Okay.
One, I'm not saying it has no rewatch value. It probably does.
It absolutely does.
Okay. I'm saying having rewatch value and getting people to part with your money over it are 2 different things.
Fair.
Very few movies even the movies that have good rewatch value struggle to do that sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
And the ones that don't, I don't understand. I still don't know why anyone saw Avatar: Way of Water more than like you and I both were like, why? Yeah. Why do this again?
Yeah,
because as Cameron said, they probably needed to go to the bathroom, so they went to go see it again to find out what they missed while they had to pee.
I want to say this, and then I want to move this on because you guys have to now scream about the strike stuff. But Robert, let me get this out before and try to fight your nature here and hear a point of view you're not considering because it might be out of your bubble.
Well, hang on. Let me make my other point about why I think Barbie's going to suffer.
And then I'm going to right on top of that.
That's fine. I think there's a lot of people who mistook that for a kid's movie.
Oh, I know they did.
And it's not.
No, it is not.
No, it's not.
So that's going to hurt it.
So here's what I'm going to tell you. A lot of women, teenage girls, the word's out. There are a couple of movies.
Dude,
off the top of my head, I can't think of any.
Hang on.
I was thinking about.
I know where you're going.
Endgame. Hang on. I was thinking about like Endgame, where for whatever the reasons were, that touched a part of the population that needed to see that movie multiple times because it hit them in the feels in a lot of different ways. And I'm making the argument that Barbie is for a large portion of half this fucking planet, women. That's the way it's hitting them. But the other side of that is there's a segment of men it's hitting too. And what I'm trying to get across to you, what I was trying to get across to Ronnie, what I think is getting lost in this conversation is that this is one of those rare unicorns that is actually about something. It says something. It's speaking to people, but it was also about something identifiable and relatable in that we all know what a Barbie is. We know what a Barbie is. Some of us have played with them. It's been a part of the cultural fabric for like decades now. But this movie is also about something, and it's about something that people experience and can relate to. A lot of times that are movies that are about something people don't have a personal experience with. When I tell you this is talking about something that a vast majority of people are wrestling with on an ongoing basis, that's no shit. And whether
I've been told for decades to kill myself. I'm well aware of that. Thank you.
So what I'm saying is that for a large segment of the population, they're going to go see this movie because much like the way we talked about the original Avatar movie, where like people's like disengagement from society, they were like attracted to the otherworldliness of Avatar. People's like old mental health struggles drew them to Avatar to get the fuck out of this universe for a little while. Barbie, kind of the same thing. I almost can guarantee you this doesn't have nearly the drop you think it does, and I will sit here and let you relentlessly make fun of me silently if I'm wrong. Moving on.
Okay. Well, okay. Let me. No, you know what? It's not worth it.
Okay.
Move on.
All right. So let's talk about the strike.
Well, hang on. We got to do the whole box office because that we got derailed by me saying Mario's it. That's your only $1 billion movie this year.
Okay. Sorry.
So hang on, Robert. You and I are both on Haunted Mansion next week. Mark, you're not on that, right?
The fuck you talking about?
I thought you sent me a list. You weren't on Haunted Mansion.
Not on Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure I remember this when we do Haunted Mansion next week about what we're predicting. Mark, you and I are saying Barbie and Oppenheimer will hold on to the number 1 and the number 2 spot.
Shit about Oppenheimer. I said Barbie. That is all I'm sticking with.
Okay.
I'll actually go with the top 2 staying as they are.
Okay.
I'll go with that. Even with the big drops, I expect them to both take.
Okay, Guardians staying at 844. I think it's been sitting there for a little while now.
It's done.
Yeah,
it's going to be on Disney Plus next week.
Fast X crossed into 700. Spider-Man crossed into 6. Little Mermaid staying in the 5s. Ant-Man hasn't moved a muscle. Transformers jumped over 4.
We're just fentanyl zombies after number 4, basically.
John Wick staying where it was. Barbie cracking the top 10 in its initial weekend at 382.
Dude, it opening and beating Mission Impossible. That's horrible for Mission Impossible.
No shit. And Mission Impossible at number 10. Hey, I just want to talk about Elemental for a second. Elemental at 359. Not bad. I mean, not great for Pixar that typically was cracking $1 billion marks.
It's not making money yet.
But I mean, it's doing better than when we initially said it was a bomb.
You know what? In fairness to that movie, what it's largely wound up doing, I think, it did some brand rehab for Pixar more than anything.
All right. Go ahead, Robert, and start us off with spell out what's going on with the writers and the actors union strike, and then Alexis can do her bit.
So a while ago, we talked a little bit about how the writers have gone on strike and how this halts future feature products, and most movies have a thing where there's like 2 people apart from the writer who are allowed to change the script on set. Writing is an active process, especially writing a movie. You're constantly revising, reshooting, adjusting, etc. And if you don't have an approved writer, you're not allowed to make changes to the script. You have to go with what is. You're not allowed to improvise. You go with what's there. And again, you usually get like a director who might be able to double on occasion, or occasionally the lead actor. It depends. It's case by case. So it screws with stuff in production, and it stops the ability to produce new things. But writers have struck before, and it tends to be it's a thing. We feel the problems like 18 months later, when crap is coming out that's worse than what we're already getting. And considering the state of things now, I weep. But now we have an event that has not happened since the 1960s. The Screen Actors Guild has joined the Writers Guild of America, and everybody's on strike, and everything is shut down. With the actors being on strike, they are not allowed to promote anything that's already done and is being released.
Tying into the Oppenheimer release, apparently our 4 main cast members from the movie actually walked out of the premiere in the middle of it. Strike was called like literally while in the middle of the movie, and they all got the message and they said, okay. And Cillian Murphy, Emily Blunt, Florence Pugh, I can't remember if it was Robert Downey Jr. or Matt Damon, but they left.
Yep. So now all the actors are striking as well, and nothing is happening in Hollywood. There's very few exceptions. Individual studios can get exemptions from this. I think A24 has one. And frequently strikes like this will have a rider about budget size. If your budget is less than X, fine. I don't know what X is. I don't know what X might be for the scenario. I'd have to look it up. And frankly, I don't care enough to get into that level of minutia. The point being it exists. But all the major studios, nothing. Nothing is shooting. Nothing. Absolutely nothing is happening. All the actors are striking. All the writers are striking. It's about, if you want to know what it's about, so writers are pissed, and actors too in some degree. No one has worked out how to do residual stuff related to streaming services. And that's a problem. There's a lot of actors, if you were on something that goes into syndication or whatnot, your residuals checks for that can be what pays your bills. So
it was through syndication. A writer would essentially have a guarantee. How to put this? Let's say you wrote an episode of Friends back in the 90s, early 2000s. Yeah. And that episode gets syndicated. You as a writer would get a check every time that episode re-aired via syndication. It's not as much as you got when you originally wrote it, but it's still, you're getting a little bit extra.
It's what keeps the lights on while you're trying to find
another job. Exactly.
And again, the same thing is true for actors. This is especially true for, recurring actors rather than maybe the main stars. I mean, Giancarlo Esposito came on and said, yeah, my residuals were what saved me before I got Breaking Bad, which, revitalized his career. But so there's residuals, which is a big thing. The other big thing going on right now that people are fighting about is the use of artificial intelligence.
That's not the only part of this I actually care about.
Hang on. Because I'm me, I have a thing about that I will share in a moment.
Well, I was going to say the straw that broke the camera's back is apparently a decision by the studios in which an actor's one of the big things that studios have to shell out for is background actors. You always need a lot of people in the background for any performance. And they apparently have this new technology where with the AI, they can scan an actor's likeness and then impose it onto into a background actor. So an actor would get paid once to have their likeness scanned, and they would then appear in countless movies and TV shows and never see a dime for it.
Hang on, there's a real bad word that's in that contract. You surrender the rights to your likeness in this respect in perpetuity, which for legal speak is forever.
Forever. Anyone who has watched Welcome to Chippendales, the napkin scene, Mark, you and I reviewed that show. Remember that infamous discussion they had where it realized the dude didn't know what in perpetuity meant.
You know, I remember thinking that at the time, I was saying it on the podcast, and even now, it's like I think I'm a bright guy, but I don't consider myself to be a genius. You know, but like, how do you not know what in perpetuity means, at least in context?
Mark, you're already dealing with people who are. You're dealing with people who don't think about this stuff usually.
Sure. No, I get it.
You're already. Hang on.
One of those I'm thinking out loud.
I know, but like you're also already burying this in other legal jargon. So, if you don't, you know it means a length of time.
Mm-hmm.
But if you don't know what it actually means, you don't know what that length of time means.
Sure.
And this is the giant failure of the education system and all the idiots who attend it. That musicians sign away 10% of their music fees in perpetuity.
Mm-hmm.
It's again, and this is a bad thing. I'm never in favor of contracts with the word perpetuity in them. They're usually terrible. So I don't object to that, but that's the other big thing that the actors are striking about. It's money, and it's if I sign away my likeness to you forever, how much of that scan can you use to then digitally recreate me? Pay me nothing and have me star in your movie, which is a valid fear.
I was going to say, they scan a background actor, they come up in the ranks, they become an A-list actor, they've still got their likeness.
That is signed away forever. Now, also, because I'm me, mind you, I can't help but do the following. All you people chanting about you won't let your machines take your job, all those learn to code folks got a real different taste in their mouth as soon as they realized, oh, my artistic shit doesn't actually work. I'm as replaceable as a guy punching a button in a factory. Oh God. So I had
your side and fraud is showing, sir.
The hypocrisy that comes to mind and comes to light there, like the absolute gall of that, it does kind of burn me a little bit.
Tuck your side and fraud back in your pants.
So I've actually talked about this with a lot of artists, and there has been a massive calling amongst people like me, the idea of we won't let AI take our jobs. And I do understand it, but I also understand that, as Robert has pointed out, in the history of progression in our society, when we say we won't let so-and-so take our jobs, so-and-so ends up taking our jobs. I, for one, am not choosing personally to fight AI. I am choosing to work with it. As a graphic designer, as a professional artist, I do not think I will be replaced, but I also understand the need to incorporate this new technology into what I do, or I will be left in the dust.
For whatever my take on this is worth, at the moment, artificial intelligence is not good enough to be on it. It's not good enough to operate independently.
No,
what you need to hang on.
The reason why I said is there's a canary in the coal mine. That's why they're having this fight now. Wait too much longer, it's going to be way too late.
Well, no. The point I'm making here is, if you're smart at the moment, you use AI as the only thing it's good for right now, which is a force multiplier for your creativity. Too much longer in the future, it will be able to replace you.
It also works really, really well in inane chats with girlfriends. You take what they write to you and you put it in the chat GPT and it spits back out something, so you don't have to.
There's going to be an app for that in the very near future.
God, I hope so.
And the fact is, I think it's also important to point out this. A lot of times when we talk about progression with technology, it's like, well, this won't be available for eons and eons. AI is progressing kind of scarily fast.
I want to say there was a class I took in college, might have been grad school when I was going to my MSW, where it was like the time it takes for technology to evolve shrinks every generation.
If you look at the length of time between, I forget what it is. There was actually, you could measure it and predict it somewhat with a degree of accuracy. If you look at the amount of time we took between like
the combustion engine,
we can even go back a little further than that, but so start with the Industrial Revolution, right? The use of water power, and steam power, even before we get to the combustion engine, the ability to just to use engines at all, even steam powered ones. And look at what that for crying out loud, there were people alive when the Wright brothers flew at Kitty Hawk and when we landed on the moon.
Right.
Those events are like 60 years apart, if less than that.
There was a period of time where a lot of stuff in the Heinlein Star Trek era was plausible, just not possible. And we've entered an age where the Heinlein Star Trek stuff is now becoming probable.
Heck, a bunch of it's passé.
Some of it, yeah.
Look at some of the stuff they can. Dude, look at old Star Trek stuff. Like, hey, we've got data pads. You mean your data pad only holds information on one thing?
I was going to say, there was a point where like
they've got 8 data pads spread out so they can sift through them. And
look
we're
what we're
like,
doing right now. Like us 3 asshole nerds are talking on a view screen from Star Trek.
I was like, look at everything our phones can do.
Right, dude. We can print food. You know that, right? We have fucking digital print. We have what do you call it? What are they called? Printers.
3D printers.
3D printers that can print food.
Sort of food. It's only sort of food.
Sort of food, but it's going to be real food.
It's getting better really fast.
Now, here's what we can do, though.
Mm-hmm.
We can artificially grow cuts of meat. So instead of having to raise a whole cow and kill it off for the meat, we're getting to the point where there's like certain bioengineering technology that allow you to artificially grow like a T-bone steak.
I want to throw this out there just as a real quick aside, and I'm not going to do what some people do, which use a personal thing and tell a 12-hour story really quickly. When I got cancer the first time, my doctor said, I need you to stay alive just a few years. We're going to try to do what we can to keep you alive with what we have now, because if you can just live a few more years, you're going to be on the cusp of cutting edge stuff that's going to save your life for, until you die naturally. Like he was telling me in the years between 2017 and 2020 that I had cancer the first time around, they were like, we are so close to being able to give you groundbreaking technology to cure your cancer forever. Just don't die. I'm like, thanks, Dr. Sokol.
Labs are currently regrowing organs from scratch.
I mean,
they're literally 3D printing kidneys.
My dad, talks about my dad and I used to have some, fairly intellectual, like science fiction, philosophical conversations. And there was this idea of like, we're getting to a point where we're going to have some real considerations over who gets to live and die because we have the technology to live forever, or we will, with homegrown replaceable organs, or the idea of being able to, as Jesse and I have talked about, uploading consciousness into technology so that
you need quantum computing before you can do that. You can't think in them just binary.
Well, my point being is that we're so close to having a lot of this stuff now where, the way that civilization has been able to continue is people die. When Nolan dies, what do you do? And that's a very real problem that's coming down the pike. But right now we're just talking about being able to create art artificially with computers and people not being particularly useful or helpful in the process. And that is a real fear. Hey,
look, man. I don't object to their fear. I don't object to them striking. What galls me is the hypocrisy of it. That's it.
All right. Alexis, did you go into your list as to how this actually affects? Because people listening to this going, yes, but what about me? What about Raven? How does this affect me? Well, it affects your favorite shows.
Wow. That's a reference.
Yes, I did put together a list. Pretty long list, actually. I went through a couple of different websites. Firstly, we actually do have a handful of movies. They are completed, but the studios are pushing back the release dates because, as Robert mentioned, the actors are not going to be allowed to do any marketing or promotion.
As we all know, that really hurt the Flash.
Pretty much. So the biggest one in that list is Dune Part 2. It was supposed to be released on November 17th. There are now talks of pushing it to 2024.
My kids are pissed, by the way. As much as they don't know a lot about the strike, they know it's going to possibly affect Dune. And my son's like flipped the table angry that
your son would be flipping the table after he saw Part 2 anyway.
Probably. My point is, Dirk, that he's mad that Dune's going to get pushed back and he wants to see it like now today.
I don't blame him. I'm looking forward to it. That was going to be one of the other movies this year I was looking forward to.
Yes.
Which we are rapidly running out of.
Everything we look forward to is bad and dies and we cry.
It's why my fandom of like everything has died at this point. Like I have lost the ability to care.
Speaking of things we don't care about, Alexis' list, go.
Okay, other films that the releases have been pushed back because of the strike. We have Challengers, directed by Luca Guadagnino. I don't know how to pronounce it. He's the guy who directed Bones and All. This has been pushed from September to April. We have Whitebird, A Wonder Story, that was moved from a wide release on August 25th to undated fourth quarter. We have Yorgos Lanthimos, Poor Things, starring Emma Stone and Mark Ruffalo. We've seen trailers for this. It kind of looks like a new take on Frankenstein sort of a thing. That has been moved from September 8th to December 8th. Now we have films that I've got a list here that are in pre or mid production, and they have all been shut down. We have Deadpool 3.
Good. Burn it.
We have Beetlejuice 2. We have Spider-Man 4. We have It Ends With Us. This is a film starring Blake Lively. Wicked has been officially delayed.
Burn it.
Oh my God.
I'm going to chime in on occasion with that. Just keep going.
I'm sorry if I have to take a break.
Because that's what happens, is that you cut her off and then she goes into a tangent for an hour and a half. Let her go.
I just had to take a drink. I have a scratchy throat. Okay, Wicked. We have the musical, The Color Purple. Aquaman and the Lost Kingdom, although I think we all agree nothing's going to save that.
Burn it.
No, it's shit. No, I'm on the train for that one. Fucking just kill that movie already.
No kidding. Mortal Kombat 2 has officially halted. Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning 2, otherwise known as Mission Impossible 8, is on hiatus. The live-action Lilo and Stitch, Venom 3.
Burn it.
We have an untitled Brad Pitt Formula One movie that he's apparently working hard on. Juror number 2. This is rumored to be Clint Eastwood's final movie before he finally decides to retire.
Yeah, I've heard that one before.
As far now, do you guys want to go into shows, or do you want to talk about the potential?
Keep going.
Okay, because there's another list on here before I go into the shows, and these are movies that have not confirmed if they have shut down pre-production or not, but according to the list, they were in pre-production when this strike announced, so chances are pretty good. Yeah, they're included in the list. Like I said, they just haven't made a formal announcement. We have the next 2 Avatar movies.
Burn it.
Yeah, I'm not going to fight on that one. We have the Lion King prequel, Mufasa.
Burn it.
Superman Legacy, James Gunn taking over. There is, again, they haven't made an official announcement on that, but it's due to start pre-production soon. We have another Alien movie, Alien Romulus.
Burn it.
Even if there wasn't a strike, I'd be tempted to say burn that one.
Fast X Part 2.
Burn it.
Salty
Earth.
I was really not looking forward to this at all, but this is really a lot of fun. Keep going.
Kung Fu Panda 4.
Burn it.
Inside Out 2.
Burn it.
I can live with that one.
No, fuck them for being that fucking stupid about the sequels.
Despicable Me 4.
Burn it.
I'm good with that.
Conjuring The Last Rites.
I'm not going to say burn everything.
Okay, yeah, the next Conjuring movie, it's called Conjuring Last Rites.
Yeah, burn it.
We have an untitled Bob Dylan biopic starring Timothy Chalamet.
Burn it.
Okay, again, those have not officially been.
Hang on, can I talk about like how contentious this podcast has been tonight? But like where Robert and I finally get together and love each other again, hating everything. Woo!
Okay, now we got the TV shows. Again, these have been officially confirmed as being delayed. Last of Us Season 2.
Burn it. I don't know.
Go to hell. I don't know a positive review.
I don't know what they're gonna try and do with that Season 2. I really don't.
The second game, duh.
I'm aware of that. If part of the appeal of that movie, of that show, is Pedro Pascal's performance, don't get attached.
Spoilers.
Season 3 of Euphoria.
Don't even know what it is.
It's what launched Zendaya's career. Season 4 of Season 4 of Emily in Paris. Season 5 of Stranger Things. Season 3 of The White Lotus. Season 3 of Yellow Jackets. Season 2 of Andor.
Burn that.
Again, we gave it a positive review. Shut up.
No. Like, I don't say burn that one because I think it'll suck. I mean, you told a fine story. Leave it.
Season 2 of Interview with the Vampire.
Burn it.
I actually want to see that. And we have 2 shows that were starting their first season that are halted. One is Apples Never Fall. I think that's on Peacock.
Not a real service.
Peacock.
And there are discussions whether, again, this is on the haven't announced yet, but it looks like Thunderbolts is also going to be delayed.
Burn it down.
Okay, now that Robert has decided we are burning everything in fucking Hollywood.
Yeah, that would be nice. They should have tested.
We're rooting for Skynet on this podcast. You realize that, right?
They should have tested the atom bomb and all. If we'll do this to ourselves, guess what we'll do to the Japanese?
So that Alexis doesn't have an existential crisis and walk into the woods to live deliberately. Real quick, just like another minute or two on this, and then we're gonna move into the last segment. What do you think, Alexis, in 50 words or less, will be the final solution to the strike? You know, if the major things are residuals and AI.
Poor choice of words.
As I'm saying it, I'm like, don't say final solution. He said it. Fucking roll with it. Hopefully nobody notices. I really wanted no one to say anything. Hear this podcast and go, did he say final solution 20 minutes later?
With me on the podcast, you expected that not to go remarkable.
I was hoping you'd fucking quietly no-sell it. Too much to ask. I realize
I'll no-sell a lot of things. I ain't no-selling that.
Anyway, so what do you think will be the Holocaust to this end to this strike?
Nuclear Holocaust.
I need a second.
Just let the robots
you fucking
win.
broke me.
Again, in case somebody uses this for TikTok, I won't play the cheering sound.
Just let the robots win at this point.
The robots win.
I think the Terminator might have had the right idea.
Oh, that's an interesting shade of red you've turned me. Okay. The thing is, I believe that the residuals and the money itself, it can be easily figured out. The concern is the AI. Yeah. I don't know how you write into a contract, like for writers, for example. I don't know how you write into a contract. We at the studio will not allow, or we will not produce any script that's written by AI. I just don't know how you're going to get a studio to agree to that.
Mm-hmm.
Like I said, that's the thing that really concerns me with how long the strike is going to go on. If it was just about the money, I would say give it another
6 weeks.
I'd say a month or two at most.
Yeah.
And the studios would finally say, fine, here's the money.
And 6 weeks, like back to the start of it. Like that would be over relatively quickly.
Yeah. But I really don't know what we're going to do about this. I mean, the fact that the studios, want to scan an actor's likeness and use that, and the actors would have no. Someone pointed this out on freaking Twitter. That's a Black Mirror episode.
Yes, it is.
Literally is.
Yeah.
Poor Selma Hayek, and does her asshole have rights?
I wonder if we're going to start seeing a change in like copyright law, where you can like copyright your face, you can copyright your visage, which I guess solves some of that, but it doesn't solve the writer problem.
Well, I think you do in theory own the rights to your own likeness until you sign them away. Is all. That's
my point. Is I think you're going to see the compromise being that you have to be paid a residual for your likeness, or like your likeness has inherent value, and therefore they have to pay for it. And you get a kickback.
We also saw a hint of this, I would say, when Black Widow came out, because we remember talking about this, that Scarlett Johansson sued Disney because she had a clause in her contract. She was supposed to get a cut of the gross for the release, and then
they just dumped it on Disney.
The world ended, and they put it, which was not the plan. They settled out of court. She got a hefty chunk of change. I believe the contracts now have to be rewritten to include a streaming clause that, first of all, yes, if this does not make so much money and it goes directly to streaming, the actors / writers are still taken care of. And while I don't see actors and writers getting the same residuals that they would have gotten from syndication checks as far as residuals, I do see new contracts being written up where essentially it's like whenever a streaming service renews the contract to purchase the rights to air a show or a movie, the actors and writers will get a cut of it.
Well,
my thought,
hang on.
My thought with the writer stuff is because really this is the only thing I have to contribute to this conversation, and then you guys can say your piece, and then we're going to move on. I think I think the writing is on the wall, no pun intended. That what's going to end up being is that you can't stop the rise of artificial intelligence writing screenplays. You can punt. And it's going to be like, you can't do this for 10 years. That's probably something along those lines.
That's kind of my hunch. We'll get a temporary moratorium on it. And by the time it comes up again, the technology will be so good that they can just tell the humans to F off.
But that's the thing. I think that's going to be the negotiation standpoint. It's like, pay us a lot of money now, and we'll agree to a finish line to where when we all get there, we'll all have we'll all save our pennies, have a hefty chunk of change to rest on, but we know we're all fucked out of a job. And I honestly think that's the best compromise there can be. This is technology is coming. It came for the dock workers. It came for the auto workers. It came for a lot of jobs.
Turns out it came for the artistic types who were who were sort of secure in their.
Well, I had this.
Machines can't be creative. Well,
sure they can.
They can do an approximation that'll work, it turns out.
Hey, I had to watch my career as a photographer go bye-bye when all of a sudden everyone had all of the all the editing software they ever wanted on their damn phones. You know what it's like to be shooting a wedding and to have a father of the bride lean into the aisle with his camera phone and him showing you at the reception that he can already do everything you've been trained to do for years?
I got one better for you. The Jackie did photography, paid photography for my girlfriend. She would take portraits, and she did it with her phone. Did it with her phone. Did not have a real camera. Did it with her phone, and they were portrait quality photos on her phone. When you think about the amount of industry that gets rid of, the manufacturing of cameras aren't really necessary anymore. They still make them, but
my dad worked for over 25 years, owned his own photography studio. I worked for him. I remember when we first got digital cameras, and I was like, we don't have to worry about negatives anymore. Yay!
Right. I have a friend who's an actual professional photographer with a camera and everything. You're paying her for what she does to the photos after she takes them. And her artistic
but
eye
again, there's now
pictures.
Software on your phone that can fix that.
I understand that, but I'm saying they're paying her for her expertise in Photoshop essentially, and her eye for a nice picture. But not everyone's going to do that. That is something where if you really want to spend the money, you can. I think it was like $5,000 for a boudoir session.
I still do a little photography on the side, and 9 times out of 10, it's for an exchange of goods and services. I'm not actually getting paid for I think the last serious photography job I did was the girl who cuts and dyes my hair opened her own salon, and I offered to shoot her grand opening for her, and I got a free hair color.
My wife and I were talking a little ways back, and there was an article I read, maybe The Economist or one of the fancy mags I read. And they were talking about how the teaching industry is going to be replaced by AI. And my wife's like, no, the kids hang on, the kids are never going to respond to robots. And I'm like, the article specifically said they will build robots kids can readily cuddle up with and identify with. So Barney the fucking purple dinosaur is going to teach your kids because it'll do a better job than the human. And considering
we already have we already have moved to most students just sticking with online classes and over the computer thanks to the plague that shall not be mentioned.
Yeah,
AI, it's that was the jumping point to AI teachers.
Yeah. All right, Robert, take me home, baby doll.
I tend to think you're right, Mark, that we're gonna get a punt. We're gonna get let's kick the can down the road, and it'll be future our problems. And then that's kind of just where it's going to end. Because by the time, however far you push that into the future, because the studios see this as well, it's a cheap, fast, easy alternative to dealing with other people. Why wouldn't they want to do this?
Right.
So they're not going to say we'll never do it. And the writers are not going to say, fine, you can do it. So where we wind up meeting in the middle is just going to be awkward. I was going to say the other thing about residuals on streaming. Part of the problem you're going to run into with that is nobody wants to be open and honest about streaming numbers.
Mm-hmm.
They all have, look, man, if you're Netflix, you literally have perfect data. You can track every IP address that accesses your stuff, what they access, when they access it, how long they're there. You could, with the most accurate way, as accurately as possible, tell everyone what everyone's watching at any given point in time. They're not going to do it for any number of reasons. And because they're not going to do it, we have to rely on vague notions. And if anyone can get away with paying less because vague notions rather than hard data, that's where we are.
All right. And with that said, for this we haven't had a good screaming match where both of us are annoyed at each other in a while, and I kind of miss it. Mwah.
Yeah.
Good. Yeah, glad you feel the same.
Dude, next Monday I gotta wake up early for that. That's 10 a.m. for me. Like next Monday at that, you're gonna get grumpy me in the morning talking about the worst thing ever made.
Melissa, I gave you an out. You can take it. I'm not as committed to this as I once was.
No. You see, the fact that you're now less committed means you know how bad it is, and it must be documented.
Fair enough. With that, shut the fuck up about it. With that said, the critical review.
Are you ready? No! I said, are you ready?
No, God! No, God, please, no! 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 No!
Alrighty. A 94% fresh tomato reading and a 93 audience score for the Oppenheimer. The Oppenheimer. You guys still hear me?
Yeah.
Loud and clear.
Everything got really quiet.
That was not worthy of response.
I understand that. I still wanted to make sure I was actually being heard, though. You cannot laugh, but all right. And so we've been doing this lately. So all critics, it's 94% tomato. It actually went up with the critics.
Yep. That tracks.
And then for the verified audience, it's 93%. For all audience, it only drops 2%. So
that's actually quite good.
Universally acclaimed. So let's find some crazy people who didn't like it. Let's see here. Crazy people who didn't like it, or your guys' future ex-husbands and wives.
Fair enough.
Right here. Where's Black Robert Winfree? Where are you at, sir?
I don't know how you would react to a theoretical black version of me.
Positively, it's me.
No. Like I know that, but I'm curious, like how weird that gets, how fast.
Considering Robert's one of the whitest people on the planet.
All right, Leonardo Garcia Sao Rafael Ratatouille.
It's a Spanish review.
La Jornada. The world forever changed after the atomic bomb. Don't you understand? The world of cinema after Oppenheimer remains fundamentally the same.
If you expected this to fundamentally change the nature of cinema,
I'll say, what the hell were they was he expecting out of this?
Yeah, it's not like it's Barbie.
Swear to God, Mark, you make one or more of those, I'm jumping in the foxhole.
It's fine. It'd be worth it. Ed Whitfield of the Tray, Robert Winfree of the Screaming Boy podcast. This is an old school movie designed to make you think and make you stink, make you frink. Sorry.
You're quoting, please don't interject.
This is an old school movie designed to make you think, and it succeeds to the frustration of those who already suffer from insomnia and existential dread.
Yeah, if those two things bother you, this movie will not help. Just throwing it out there.
I went to go see Oppenheimer and didn't take my Xanax. I shit my pants and passed out in the theater.
And if you're a man going to see Barbie, you'll walk out wanting to commit suicide all over again.
Jesus.
Kevin Carr.
Oh my God.
Yes.
Oh my God, you gotta be kidding me. The stars are fucking aligned.
My day has come.
Oh my God, I've never seen you with glee before.
I can't imagine why I wouldn't be gleeful on
Robert, would you do us the honors and read this one?
Sure. Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies. You know what? We left him alone for too long. Now he needs attention. This is what's going on here.
Yeah,
He's acting out.
This is like someone in our chat.
He's acting out.
Yes.
Bloated and overblown, Nolan shows little respect and understanding of actual science while he builds a convoluted narrative.
Get him, Winfree.
I didn't know Kevin Carr had a degree in theoretical physics.
Get him, Winfree.
I didn't know Kevin Carr knew how to find his own ass with both hands and a flashlight.
You need to make fun of him so we can move on to your black
Oh,
doppelganger.
good grief.
Yeah. Oh, this guy.
Hang on.
Hurry.
I'm not going to listen to Kevin Carr, a fat guy at the movies, lecture me on the scientific accuracy of Oppenheimer. You idiot.
Black Robert Winfree, Armin White of National Review. Because Nolan's politics are always obscure, it's good that his filmmaking is so slick, yet laborious, convoluted, and enervating. Otherwise, a perverse amoral epic like Oppenheimer might be dangerous.
Okay, I'm sorry. I'm going to play the idiot
Dangerous?
card here. Enervating? I have legit never heard that word before.
Enervation. Enervation is kind of the opposite. It's taking energy away.
Okay, I'm serious. I was just like,
it's a relative
because I've never heard it.
It's a relatively obscure word, but to jackass there. I'm sorry.
To alligator Loki.
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I like alligator Loki.
Politics? One, this is fundamentally there's political discussion in Oppenheimer because it's the backdrop to a lot of what's going on. Your complaint is it's not preachy enough, and it could be How the hell is this ever dangerous, by the way? Let me just throw that. What are you worried about? What about this becomes dangerous to you, sir?
I'm sorry, was he upset about all the stuff about whether or not he was a communist? That's history, pal.
What if somebody gets an atomic bomb?
Dude, Mark, you and I grew up with the fear of the suitcase nuke. Like, this guy can piss off with that. Oh, no. It discussed that this guy had genuine political discussions. And
hang on. There was a very palpable fear of car bombs in our time.
Darn right there was. Thanks, McVeigh. Let me throw this one out there, too. I don't care what side of the political aisle you're on. If your argument is they present McCarthyism as a negative, it was. So was freaking apartheid. These are not. This is not a political stance to say that this is bad. Witch hunts are bad. Because either side can do a witch hunt. Pointing out that witch hunts are bad does not mean... That's such a stupid point that he tried to make. It's...
Robert's broken. Moving on.
Yeah,
no, I want to say this. So our Armin White, I got to be serious and not make fun of him again. Armin White of National Review, typically leaning, conservative. This is not that this doesn't get done on both sides, but can we please have an argument without having to go, but both sides do it and shut the fuck up and be adults for just once? One of the big problems with people, especially when it comes to entertainment media, when you start to make conservative arguments, is that they become very circular, tangential. They are reaching so badly to shame progressive arguments and people that their argument is a giant reach in and of itself. That's my big problem with what Armin White's doing there, is that he's using his review to attack progressive ideas unnecessarily in a movie that doesn't actually warrant it.
Yeah, like the actual politics of Oppenheimer, of the man Oppenheimer, are not actually discussed, which is fine. Look, when he was a liberal college professor, he explored the ideas of liberalism and progressivism. Oh, shock!
But this is what gets me. Without inciting people to the left of us, hear me and be an adult about this. There are some perfectly valid and interesting ideas that come from conservatism. It doesn't help when the people making those arguments make shitty arguments. You tend to get shit all over the philosophy, which does nobody any good, because when you throw out half the philosophy of human civilization, you do great damage to the collective conscious.
I think it is fair to point out that, yeah, majority of movies that are clearly pushing a conservative agenda, and they argue it's like, well, the progressives doing it. It's like, yeah, there's a difference. The progressives are actually doing it well. What you made is a collective pile of shit.
A lot
like
of it,
actually
yes.
make a good movie, and maybe we'll listen.
Yeah, like Barbie. Anyway, move. Sorry.
I was thinking more about those faith-based films that came out a few years ago that were pushing a crazy, like, major pro life agenda and everything, even in the taglines. And it's like, yeah, I'll listen to your argument, but don't make me listen to your argument in a movie that's a piece of shit.
Mark Hughes of Forbes. Oppenheimer is ambitious and
fair,
includes
that would be my genuine gripe with Barbie. Like, I'm not opposed to feminism, contemporary feminism as a general rule, yes, but when you dress it up and then insult me for the entire 2-hour runtime of your piece of shit, I'm not interested.
Mark Hughes of Forbes. Oppenheimer is ambitious and includes many mesmerizing, often brilliant moments, but those moments cannot sustain themselves nor find common ground as a single compelling narrative or perspective.
Okay, so somebody got bored fast.
Too much movie for you, man. This is not a guy who's ever seen a legitimate biopic before.
Yeah, seriously, it's like that review just screamed. It's like, so you know how we mentioned, it's like, this is not a movie you can phase in and out of. This is a movie you have to. That is clearly a critic who phased out of it and was unable to catch up on what was going on.
Yeah.
The future exhibitionist Robert Winfree, Carlo Renato of the Kirby film critic. Oppenheimer at its core is more about humanity, has little regard for the future and its consequences, making it a must-see film of 2023. Cillian Murphy, Robert Downey Jr., Matt Damon, and Emily Blunt are stupendous.
Speaking of people trying to unfairly inject their politics into places it doesn't belong.
All right. Do maybe one or two more of these and call it a night. Let's see here. Christian M. Lynn of...
Sorry, just... Yes. Because people want complicated problems to be simple. There's a lot of nonsense that goes on around Oppenheimer as a person, more so about the development and use of the atomic bomb. And it really grinds my gears when people are this historically ignorant. There's idiots out there right now spouting well, of course they were always going to use the bomb, even though Japan was ready to surrender because they spent $2 billion developing it. This is ahistoric nonsense.
Christian M. Lynn of Fort Worth Weekly. There's a better, smaller movie inside Oppenheimer. It just got swallowed up.
In other words, Christian had to go to the bathroom around the midpoint and was pissed off that she had to wait.
You are not smart enough to understand the editing that it would take to reduce this movie and have it retain its power. Neither am I. That's why I said I would have to really go through it with a fine-tooth comb.
Let's see. None of your husbands reviewed this thing here, as near as I can tell, Alexis. Emily Wheeler of Emily Wheeler Movie Ops. It postures intelligence precisely, but in the end has little to say. Are you fucking kidding me?
It's a very poorly constructed sentence for someone who claims to be writing opinion pieces.
Odie Henderson of Boston Globe top critic. This was way too much a movie for. What can I say for sure? What I can say for sure is that Oppenheimer far too often feels like a 3-hour Wikipedia entry than it does a compelling movie.
Somebody doesn't like biopics, evidently.
Unless they're edited like shit and feature musicals.
Could we be more passive-aggressive on this podcast to each other?
There's nothing passive about my aggression.
Fair. Mike Massey of Gone with the Twins. There are virtually 3 different complete movies lurking within this ludicrously overlong piece, each exhibiting distinct genres and subjects, and each appearing inconsequential to the chapters that preceded them, out of order, of course.
Okay,
well, somebody doesn't like in media res. How adorable.
One, you're more married to conventional narrative structure than Mark is, and that's saying something, because Mark's more married to that than he is to his wife.
Oh, sweet Jesus, you found Grace Randolph.
Yep.
Hang on, I'm going to yell at her in a second, but to that other guy... I lost my point because he brought up Grace, and that just...
That's the power of the bitch.
All right, this will be the last one then. The future...
I resent the existence of the internet just because it platformed her.
The future ex-domestic partner of Alexis Hejna, Grace Randolph of Beyond the Trailer.
Dude, you could get away with abusing her for longer. than Mark or I could.
a misfire for Nolan. Grace, too talky, and like many of his films, lacks emotion. The story is hard to follow because it's too much for my brain and unfair to history.
You don't know enough about history to claim its fairness.
But
I should add, I have listened to a bunch of other critics talk about this. I have yet to hear somebody say that this movie is like, I'm sure Nolan took a few liberties with a handful of parts. That's fine. But I have yet to hear anyone say that this film is historically inaccurate.
It's not. It's very accurate.
But the film looks good with some good performances, even if most of the characters are unlikable. Also, not a good use of IMAX.
Not a good use of
IMAX. Grace, look, I said some negative comments about the atomic bomb, but are you fucking kidding me, dude? Like,
every now and then she just has to say the dumbest thing to re-grab attention.
Pretty much.
Because that's what that is.
Oh, you passed one of my future husbands. You passed Jeremy Johns. You were saying you couldn't find any of my husbands.
I know, I believe you. I was trying to figure out where I passed him.
He was at the bottom before you hit. There he is. Down. Okay. There he is.
The Future X, Mr. Alexis Hejna, Jeremy Johns of JeremyJohns.com. Thank you for leaning into the gimmick, Alexis. The story, performances, filmmaking, editing, all top tier.
How profoundly unhelpful.
I want the 30 seconds I spent looking for that back.
Okay, I'm sorry. That I'm pointing the finger at Rotten Tomatoes because I actually did watch his review, and yeah, he said they were all top tier, but
not a good pull out.
That's not the pull I would have taken.
Fair.
That's what she said.
We've complained about that in the past.
Admittedly, the algorithm for Rotten Tomatoes does occasionally pull the wrong sentence.
Last one. Alonso Giraldi of the Film Verdict, top critic. Like its protagonist, Oppenheimer is a work in constant conflict with itself, with most of its problems rooted in Nolan's screenplay.
Once again, I weep for your inability to understand film and not your storytelling.
I think it's apparent that a lot of those critics do not like movies where you have to pay attention to the whole thing.
Yep. So last night, myself and Roddy Adams did a triple feature for Barbie. We spent about an hour talking about it, and most of it just talking about the Ken stuff because dudes. Speaking of dudes, we also reviewed Sisu.
Well, because Mark, like all good dudes, you understand your place as second-class citizens, and so limited your discussion to your people and your kind, and you don't talk about the other kind because you're not supposed to.
I tried. Ronnie was a bit focused on one thing. But we did do that last night. Next week.
Okay, as a brief aside for everyone, because I've told the story about how I have grandfathered in my exemption for Barbie from like 5 years ago when it was first supposed to come out.
I told that story on the podcast last night.
Yeah, but I want you to listen to Mark and Ronnie review that. But I want you to understand how much worse that would have been if it was me and Mark.
Oh, you think tonight was bad?
If I had like more ammunition to throw at Mark's points, imagine how bad this would have gone.
All right, so on Thursday, this is a second shot at this. Myself and Pat Mullen will be talking about the Barrera Morales trilogy on the history of boxing. That'll be at 1 p.m. This weekend, the canned hams. We've got the movies that don't suck and some that do. They're doing The Outlaws and Indiana Jones. We're gearing up for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles that comes out a week from Friday. So we got Everyone Loves a Bad Guy, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, Long Road to Ruin, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. And then, as we talked about, Robert and I are going to talk about The Idol at noon on Monday. And then in the evening,
for both your souls.
And then in the evening, myself and Jason Teasley, again, another second shot at this. We're going to be talking the Lake Placid series. And then I'm 2 in. And then myself, Robert, Dorian Price, who's hopefully his internet's working. We four will be talking Haunted Mansion.
Girding Ghosts come out to socialize.
Oh, that shouldn't be there. Let's get rid of that.
For the record,
And-
I do have it right here. Yeah, you didn't include your name on this, so that's why I assumed that you weren't.
Alexis, I don't include my name on any of these. Like you're hammering
Okay.
on a point that isn't relevant.
That's why I was mistaken and thought you weren't in doing.
No, that's why I wrote. That's why I wrote the note for Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles. No mark, because it would be implied that I'm on these.
Okay, sorry, misunderstood.
You are forgiven, my child. And that is it for at least the next 2 weeks. Alexis, show us where you pissed from.
All right, yeah, looking forward to Haunted Mansion. So I'm tentatively scheduling a handful of other shows. We do have Secret Invasion. That's either going to be August 9th or 10th. Andrew was the one who approached me to be on it, and so I want to know what day works better for him before I officially schedule it. So I'm getting tired of scheduling something that somebody wants to be on, and then they go, "Oh no, wait, I'm busy that day."
Welcome to my life.
Mark's been here for a while.
Pretty much. So we've got that. We have Only Murders in the Building season 3 coming out soon. Mark, I'm assuming you want in on that one as well.
I've already got the date for that.
Okay.
Murders in the Building. We will be recording that October 19th.
Okay, looking forward to that. We always have a lot of fun with that show.
Yep.
There's a couple other shows coming out. Like I said, I need to get with you about the schedule. I just need to look at the schedule. So, because every time I try to enter things in on the calendar, it doesn't appear. So it's like I can get them scheduled, but I apparently need you to actually enter them in on the physical calendar because the calendar just doesn't like me.
Yeah, I don't know why that's happening, but yeah, we'll work it out.
All right. And as far as my personal promos, Honeysuckle Rose Creations, where fashion meets fandom at the intersection of geek and chic. We're off this month from the con circuit, so we've been focusing on our online stuff. And God help me, my company is now on Twitter or TikTok.
Woo! Hey, what'd you think of my naked karaoke? Arr.
I gave you a heart.
You did. I was touched.
Gave you a thumbs down.
You did not
you can't give
nothing.
a thumbs down on TikTok. It's either a heart or nothing.
Here, I'm giving you a thumbs down.
You didn't see my naked TikTok. If you keep that up, you will. Which one did you see me saying?
Dude, fair warning. Don't show that here. You'll get us in trouble. More
I
trouble than we already
Okay,
are.
I honestly can't remember the exact song, but it was the one that you said you were dedicating to Jackie.
Oh no, it's the one that Jackie picked for me.
Okay.
It was Big Balls by AC/DC.
Yeah, that's the one I gave you a heart on. All right.
Why are you holding your head? I did a great job with Big Balls. Because we've got
because I did enunciate heart on, and I realized how it sounded when it came out of my mouth. I was like, "Oh, shoot me now."
It's all right.
Okay.
Mark's aversion to crabs rears its ugly head yet again.
So, like I said, we have no conventions for the we've had no conventions in July, which is weird. It's usually a very busy month for us. First week in August, we have the Fountain City Minicon here in Kansas City. Small show, looking forward to it. At the end of August, we will be in Colorado Springs for their Comic-Con. That's a really, really great one. And as I have dropped countless times, looking forward to it for no other reason. Bruce Campbell is among the guests of honor.
Woo!
So excited! Other than that, of course, our stores are open on Etsy and Handmade at Amazon. I am currently in the process of uploading some new products, including a handful of new Monopoly token charm bracelets. We have our new Coraline themed charm bracelet. Had a lot of fun designing that. And we have a new set of Cosmic Brownie inspired pieces, including a hair barrette and earrings. Because who doesn't love that after school snack? And you can find us on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram.
If you made something for men, I have at least one of my brothers I would buy that for.
Does he have enough hair?
Yes, by my barrette.
No, I actually do have a brother who has enough hair for that, believe it or not.
I'll make you cufflinks if you think he'd wear them.
Nah, it's more that my two youngest brothers loved those things when they were little.
Oh, who didn't love that? That's the point. Who didn't love those things?
Yeah,
So yes, like I said, you can find us on Facebook,
Rolls.
Twitter, Instagram, and yes, now on TikTok. That's Honeysuckle Rose Creations, the intersection of
TikTok.
geek and chic.
TikTok.
They are not paying you. Stop advertising for them.
Hey, my naked karaoke numbers are going up. Thank you, everybody.
Hey, my jewelry tutorial videos are going up.
Yeah. See,
The
I do
only
naked.
thing, that's the only thing going up related to naked karaoke. And
Listen, my naked karaoke helps her sell merchandise. I think the world needs more naked karaoke.
Who said it helps me sell my merchandise? You're not wearing any of my jewelry while you're performing.
I mean, if you send me jewelry, I will wear that and nothing else.
I gave you. Okay. First of all, your daughter has multiple bracelets that I've made. Secondly, I have sent you pins.
What do you want to pin myself while I'm singing naked karaoke?
What else are you gonna put
Dude,
on?
I don't know.
Hang on. You want to pretend you haven't done that kind of stuff?
No.
You've taken bumps into stuff like that before.
You're not wrong about that. I don't know, make it like a Public Enemy clock or something that I can wear. Something big that'll show up on camera. How about I'll just hold up a sign while I'm singing?
Robert, you beat me to it again.
Close.
Make you a Public Enemy clock. Who the fuck do you think I am?
Robert, show us where you pissed from.
All right. As I continue to desperately try and crawl my way out of whatever mental health funk I'm in, you can find me on the internet, which is not helpful. I cover mixed martial arts and professional wrestling for 411mania.com. Also not helpful to my mental health dealing with wrestling fans.
Is there anything you do that's beneficial to your mental health? Because being with us sure is fucking gonna do it.
Depends on the day. Sometimes this is quite beneficial. I cover MLW stuff on Thursday, WWE SmackDown on Friday, and UFC events on Saturdays. So this coming Saturday is UFC 291, which is actually taking place in Salt Lake City, and has a pretty good card. Unfortunately, it means because I'm covering that, I won't be able to get to watch the best fight of the weekend on paper, at least.
Oh, the Spence Crawford fight.
Darn right.
I'll be watching that.
I don't blame you.
Only 20 years in the making.
Yeah, it's been a while. On the plus side, I do get to watch Dustin Poirier Justin Gaethje too, so that'll be fun. But I will be covering that Saturday in the MMA Zone of 411mania.com. If you want to hear a full breakdown of that card, I previewed it this late Sunday, early Monday, the latest episode of the 411 Ground and Pound MMA podcast. Reviewed the UFC's return to London, where I once again have to advocate for not 15 fight cards, UFC. It's a bad idea. Talked about all the fallout from that, and then again previewed UFC 291, talked a little news. That's what that show is. A weekly look into the wide, wacky, wonderful world of mixed martial arts, so give that a listen if you are so inclined. Next week, maybe we'll be here. We'll see. If the numbers don't do well for this show, we might just call it in. We might just look at how we're doing and go, you know what? If we can't average better than Mark's TikTok, we should really just what are we doing here?
Yes, please check out my TikTok for all my naked karaoke concerts that I go to and the occasional 10-minute clip from one of these podcasts. I'm going to try to get up all my Barbie stuff this week because I want to get that in while it's hot. Hot, I tell you. Hot.
Oh, so all of a sudden, Mark cares about being contemporary and on the ball.
Just this one time.
Yeah, that tracks.
All right. Folks, this has been very positive and very fun.
I know why you loved Barbie.
Why do I love Barbie?
I suddenly figured it out.
Oh, please, doctor.
It's all the feet.
For all the feet. For all the meat. That Alexis Hejna likes to greet. This has been Damn You Hollywood.
He's just trying to vamp.
Be well, be safe, and behave.